Okay,
Okay, we're ready to go. Call this meeting to order.
Wait,
Oh,
I'm echoing.
okay.
Are you going tomorrow? Where am I going tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'm already at Cameroon tomorrow, that's for a field trip. Well, you might get a plan into the whole thing. Oh, goody.
Okay.
Really? Yeah.
Are we good? Thanks to Jim Gardner, our technology guru. We're ready to go. We'll go ahead and do some introductions in just a minute, but turn over to Assistant County Manager first.
Thank you. So just a couple housekeeping items, that I'm practicing myself. We're asking that everybody speak directly at the owl. That is going to make it so that we have the best audio. When we turn our heads, we're turning away from the owl, and we want to make sure, since this is a really large table, that we're capturing everybody's comments. And then just a reminder, and this is after each of the district meetings, we'll want to remember to do that, we will need to have whoever is elected as the chair come to me so we can sign the minutes from last year that you all will approve through this process. So that is all I have, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. So, why don't we go around? We have the members of our citizen committee and we have the Board of County Commissioners, and we can start right over here and just everybody can introduce themselves. Yeah. No, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, good. Robert Stevens, rural law enforcement, 3.
Michael Carter.
Welcome.
Amy Lunds. Navage.
On the field, Assistant County Manager.
County Commission.
Courtney Banks, County Commission.
Yeah, Thompson County Commission.
John Toyota County Commission.
County Web, County Commission. I think it would be very helpful if people, if the name, if the card that's in front of you is not your name, could you turn it over?
Yeah, sorry.
Well, just, I mean, get it out.
Just so I'm understanding, so we're gonna have the members of the budget committee join us
For the countywide.
countywide.
Yes.
But right now, we're gonna do the election of officers for the chair and the vice chair.
This is for what the agenda that you have is for the rural law.
We're just rural.
enforcement.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so this is the budget committee meeting for rural law enforcement district.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and elect the chair of the rural law enforcement budget committee meeting. Do you have any nominations?
I nominate Amy.
Second.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. And then the vice chair. I'll let Amy do the.
Okay, I nominate Michael.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hey.
Okay.
Okay, so my turn. Okay, the baby declaration.
I do. I have a continuing business relationship with the sheriff's office that I do occasional radio work, and I sell a service to them on a monthly basis.
Okay, approval of the 2023 minutes.
You all should have received a copy of the minutes. Did you receive your minutes? Yeah.
Email?
Yeah, and so, those minutes, unless we have any additions, edits, or anything like that.
I move we accept and approve the minutes.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Comments from the public? Okay. So we'll review the proposed budget by activity.
Matt, you're up.
All right, my turn to talk.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Commissioners, on the rural law committee, the rural law enforcement district budget, as we talked earlier this year in our meeting, is very conservative. We've been very careful in our expenditures. What looks like is this year, the beginning fund balance only lost $21,000. So around 200,000 we budgeted last year, so again, we'll be very careful. You know, there's the bad news, we know that the timber revenues are down about $183,000 this year, but we're also a little bit lucky and that the SIP came off at Georgia Pacific, which increased our tax base by about $274,000. And you know, we're working on a future SIP that will bring additional revenue to the district. Most of the cost increases that we'll see this year is in the enforcement division. That's due to step increases and COLAs, and then also health insurance. On the materials and services, it looks like it's going, well, it is going up significantly this year by about $507,000, but that is for a grant that the sheriff's office was able to receive to buy new computer-aided dispatch and records management for every law enforcement agency in the county. So it's offset by the grant. Other than that, there's actually, but for that, there's actually a reduction of about $47,000 in materials and services. So that's kind of a nutshell of what we're at.
Madam Chair, are you taking questions or comments? Thank you. Good one. Sheriff, I really appreciate the work you do in rural county. And you told about considering improving laws and things like that. Can you speak to any increase or any kind of impact on the need you see for law enforcement in rural Franklin County? Whether or not it can be a difficult
I think in general, there's not been an increase in law enforcement, and I don't believe that our booking numbers would reflect that either. Those seem to be pretty stable. Some of the challenges we have are frequently some of the motorhomes, and travel trailers that get abandoned on the side of the highways, and that is a cost to us. For a while, we can pick up $1,000 of that expense. We budgeted $20,000 for cleaning up these vehicles, and that'll allow us to do that. And there's usually a lot more. But you know, overall, we have House Bill 4002 coming into effect, which will, you know, recriminalize the possession of a controlled substance. We're working hard and fast to get the budget program up and running. Tomorrow, myself and some others will be down the same symposium. So I think that will be a good tool that'll come into effect.
Thank you. Vice Chair Banks.
So I'm gonna ask you a hard question right now. The timber revenue, I see a projected decrease of 16%. Knowing our IPs for the 25-26 are showing a decrease of 30%, or more per head. And then I see a staffing increase of 9%. I'm just curious, I know that we're all tightening our belts, and I know that you reduced spending in materials and services. But is next year's proposed funding source for that going to reflect the actual for what we'll probably be seeing on the landscape, I guess?
Yeah, not sure. Completely follow it.
So I think what you're asking is, when we did the proposed budget, did we take the HCP into consideration? Yes, we did. And then when you look out further at the 5-year forecast, we then took what ODS is proposing based on the IP. We took that information into consideration.
Okay, because we're gonna hit a cliff real fast. And I want us all in the room aware that that cliff is coming. And I wish that I could make it prettier, but it's currently not pretty. And I guess I'm just gonna be bearer of the giant thundercloud. I'm sorry, that is
Well, and it's not new news
No,
to any of
not
us.
new.
And so in that regard, as we have talked about in several meetings, we are taking all of those things into consideration. We have scaled back and we are, putting, kind of like we talked about in the budget message, we're putting, things in place, whether that's hiring freezes, whether that's holding positions vacant when, able to do so. We're also continuing to look at what are some of those other potential revenue streams. The 2025 session, we're gonna be looking at what is in the state forecast for that revenue replacement for the timber dollars, as well as what increased flexibility or TLC taxes might look like as well. So we are working on those things. The sheriff's office is also looking at other revenue stream options that might help offset some of the costs of the jail. And so it is not new news, it's something we've been planning for, that's what the reserves were for. Even at the end of 24-25, we're still projecting between 32-33% ending fund balance, and the board goal is 20 to 30%. And so as we continue to move forward, we will continue to do the necessary steps to make sure that we're not taking immediate drastic measures before we know what necessarily needs to happen, because we do have a valuable workforce. And until we know more, we don't want to put their jobs on the line.
So you just alluded to my second question, may I? So my second question being, what other revenue streams are you looking at then for the jail?
So, we've been working on a contract with Washington County Sheriff's Office, to lease beds to them. And with 20 adults in custody, that would be about $700,000 a year. And last I heard is they were taking for their board. They've done that.
That would be extremely beneficial.
I mean, the CAD RMS system, $500,000, we were planning to buy that, but found a way to pay for it, right? So, I'm definitely looking for those ways to increase revenue. There's things we can do, but it takes time, but we are working.
I appreciate it. I just rule on what's extremely important to our community. So I don't want to see unnecessary stuff happening this fast, but I also, I will openly express this in a public meeting. I have been very angry at the Department of Forestry because they are not making budget now. And they are 2 years from there. And I do not want to see them agency in a similar position. And I've also expressed anger about the fact that they've increased their spending by 25% in the last years. And I see our agency kind of in a similar situation. And so I'm just, I want to make sure that we are more responsive than other agencies when we're faced with something that is happening. Basically. Thank you.
Chair, if I can add, I've known this has been an open discussion for a couple of years, talking about numerous years, Assistant County. And also, there's we have lobbied at the state and federal level for funding support. We don't know what the result of that is going to be. Your point is well taken about what the circumstances are going forward, but I do feel very confident in the budget that we put together. I've done this with a clear mind about what
Just to dovetail on that, and I appreciate when we're looking at our budget, we're looking at factors that we as a county can do to mitigate, and to keep our budget. You look at some of the proposed, offset from the state, revenue replacement. I'm very skeptical of that because the process itself, we won't see it until 2025 first. It really only affects the majority of 3 counties out of 36. So the first cycle, we might get consideration. After that, we might fall off the map. So as we look at our budgeting process, we can't look at that as a, stopgap or even a replacement of income. We have to take the process we are on and looking at things that we can do to mitigate the loss of income, what else we can do to generate income. But I appreciate the course we're on, kind of like not disregarding, but not counting on that, replacement for mistakes. I think that would be very questionable whether it's sustainable.
Madam Chair. Thank you. And what I'm talking about, I'm hearing about more lawlessness, maybe that's because, people have more credibility going forward at the County Board of Commissioners that we will be responsive. What I'm looking for is to work with our state legislators to get legislation in place that will give us better tools to deal with, I would call it quality of life issues in our neighborhood that should theoretically at least have a positive impact, reducing the need for law enforcement intervention. And we'll hope with those proactive statutes yet to come and a good jail with positive treatment programs and the changes from House Bill 4002, that what we'll see is a decrease in the need. And that, I see that as having a mitigating impact on some of the budget woes, because I think they're real. And I agree with you. The legislature has a very short memory, especially when rural organisms.
Sure, I just said I'm real proud of our sheriff. He's been a leader within the state. Again,
Indeed, you have.
Yep.
Any additional questions or conversations with that?
Approval of the budget, rate of 0.7195 per thousand.
I make a motion.
Okay.
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
Yeah. Sorry, opposed? Okay.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on to road district number 1, page 489. We'll call this to order, and there is no budget committee. We have the Board of County Commissioners serving in this capacity. We need an election of the chair.
Nominated. I'm having trouble here.
Speak up and talk to the owl.
Talk to the owl.
Okay, moving second to elect Chair Quillen as chair of road district number 1 budget committee. All those in favor, state by an aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next, election of vice chair for road district number 1 budget committee. And I nominate Vice Chair Banks.
Second.
Moving second to elect Vice Chair Banks to the vice chair position of the road district. All of the folks, by aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. Declaration of any conflict, do you have any conflicts to report? Okay, we had an opportunity to review the 2023 meeting minutes for the budget committee. Any questions? Commissioner Banks, Vice Chair Banks.
The 260% change proposed.
Is that in the minutes?
And then this one, the minutes from the last, yeah. Okay. No questions. You have a motion.
I move to accept the minutes or approve the minutes.
Second.
Moving and seconded to approve the 2023 meeting minutes. All those in favor, say by an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, there comes from the public. Do we have anyone that would like to comment on? Annie, we'll go ahead and move on to the staff report, for the proposed budget. Is that Andrew?
Isn't me. So this is a relatively status quo budget. We'll probably be hearing this back quite a bit here. So taking thousand, I mean, saying that. Do see an increase in the beginning balance. I believe that's supposed to be 4.5 previous year. New balance is built up.
So I'm just gonna correct Andy really quick,
Okay, good.
sorry. This is because, when they're doing their projections, we're doing our projections in the months of February, March, and we have not yet received those final tax distributions and timber receipts. And so when we are projecting what we're going to be budgeting as beginning balance, sometimes it ends up being, we receive more, and we didn't budget to be able to transfer that, so it rolls into the next year's beginning balance. So that's what happened last year. They received more in property tax revenues and timber receipts than was budgeted. And so they therefore cannot transfer that because it wasn't budgeted. It rolls into the next year's beginning balance. And so that is why there's a significant increase in that beginning balance. Yes.
So is there a way to get partial actual next year in our, I don't know if partial actual is even a good term to use. When looking at, these, but because I see this actual for 22, 23, but it would just be nice, and I know that you provide stuff in our updates, in our budget updates regarding where we are within the budgetary year of how far we've spent or how far, like how much wiggle room we have. And so it would just be nice to somehow have either a companion form in this process that gives us a guesstimate of where we actually are right now. Does that make sense?
For your projection.
For our current year, like our current, yeah, year to date. But
In the budget document,
not in the budget document, but as a companion document that is not supplemental, because you provide the information to us incrementally throughout the year.
on the quarterly.
Yeah, on a quarterly basis, but I don't, I'm sorry, I don't have time to find the information. So it would just be nice to have a companion. It doesn't have to be submitted as the actual budget, but that we can see where we're at. And I don't know, any of that makes sense. Yeah.
I go for a post-it.
A post-it note. Just give us some actuals of where we are right now. So, thank you.
Any other questions?
I just point out, Mr. Chair, if I could,
Yes.
when it talks about the mission statement, the maintenance and improvement of county roads, the public, that's the public road. Because I just wouldn't want to give anybody the misapprehension that because their neighborhood street, which is not a public road, that is publicly maintained, just to clarify that language a little bit. And that's such a minor quibble compared to all of the wonderful improvements in the communication capacity in this document. Forgive me for that.
And just kind of follow up on that. We don't see county roads very often and we don't have discussions with them very often. It would be nice to have like a highlight of major accomplishments that was, you know, a little bit more, robust than.
So just for clarification, this is strictly a fund that collects the money.
Okay, so this is.
And so all the work and then everything that they anticipate receiving is then transferred into the road maintenance, construction and road admin support fund. And so that's where you will see all of the work in regards to all the projects and highlights and all that has happened. But this is strictly a collection.
We have so many collection points. It is.
Well, and the reason this is a separate collection is because it is a separate road district, and so, yeah.
Commissioner Webb?
One of the things that I like to see in budgets, that I think is very helpful to our citizens, is an explanation of the larger picture of different things. And I think one of the things, this is a really good example, of the fact that the road maintenance and development in Clatsop County in my, I think, it's likely to be one of 5 sources of funding. So to me, in our budget highlights, et cetera, it might be useful to have an explanation of the fact that we have state roads. I think in mileage terms, that's the majority of our roads, probably utility road.
I don't quite understand the question.
Okay, well, I think it actually is consistent with what Commissioner Thompson was asking as well. I don't think it's clear to citizens who maintains what roads. Because we don't always have a sign on our road. Like we do on our state highways. I find constituents of mine are very uninformed about city roads, about county roads that are within cities. And I wonder if we couldn't just do a few sentences that would clarify that. Because I think that in a document such as ours, where, I mean, at every other level of government in Oregon, transportation is a huge part of the budget. All the way from roads to mass transit, et cetera, it's a huge part of the budget. At virtually every level that I know of, except special needs. And so it would be, I just think it would be just informative for our citizens. God love them, if any of them are brave enough to look at the budget. And just to have some kind of an explanation of, because we do have, you know, we actually, the other issue for us, of course, here is that we have a lot of platted roads that I think in tonight's agenda, in fact, aren't we vacating roads tonight? We do that all the time. And so to me, and we have platted roads everywhere. So I just think it would be really helpful to that. I think that there are a lot of other things in the budget that people understand. They understand public health, you know, well, hopefully. But just a little bit of an explanation in the introduction about this is a complicated issue, folks. and there are lots of involved and lots of sources of funding, et cetera, et cetera. But this is just, you know, we'd be very specific about what this applies to.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Webb, Commissioner Banks.
The property taxes current year, proposed change is much higher than a regular percentage rate increase for, what is allowable by state ORS. And so I was just wondering, do we have that much more additional development, or is that a different, like, allocation percentage going to roads, or?
That's the expiration of this.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. And then, the interest on investments are high five.
Well, that's market right now. If you say, I look back 5 years ago, it's a totally different
Can
story.
we sneak some more money in there?
Okay, are we ready for a motion?
And then to approve.
Have a second? Second. Moved and second to approve the budget for the road district number 1. All those in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Do I need to put in the motion, the tax credit?
Yeah.
Okay, let me redo that. I will make the motion to approve the budget for road district number 1, the tax rate for 1.0175 per thousand. Do we have a second?
Okay.
Moving second to approve the budget for the road district number 1, the tax rate of 1.0175 thousand. All those in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
Quick question. Commissioner, so moving forward, you know, and we've had discussions about the TLT and, you know, about lobbying for discretionary, more greater discretion with health funds. Wouldn't it be a lobbying point to say that, you know, we have an inordinate amount of tourism in our district, in our county, and roads are more and more utilized more by that, so we should have access to some of that discretionary fund to assist in that maintenance of those roads, of the infrastructure. So how would we get to that inroad, you know, how do you use as an influence point to make an argument for increased discretion on TLT?
And that is part of the legislative concept that we have, that we'll be taking forward in the 2025 session to address that, as well as things such as park and law enforcement.
I guess, how does, or, I keep saying road department, sorry, I'm old school. Or public works, make an argument. How do they, assist us with data, with information to support our argument?
Commissioner Howell.
Thank you. Well, what an excellent question. It turns out that on June 17th, the Joint Transportation Committee is coming to Poland to do a road tour. And we're trying to develop the points of interest in Clatsop County. And I need to be in Salem doing something else. So maybe you would like to, having this great interest, make yourself available to work with staff to talk to that joint legislative committee, because this is the information data gathering segment of their coming to all of the counties to get ready for the 2025 session to look at the big funding package. So good timing, good question. Carry on.
And that's the part of the thing that we can have conversations with our public works staff, because we do have the roadway out to Fort Clatsop as well as the roadway to Fort Stevens are both county roads. And so in regards to doing car counts and stuff like that, I mean, it's obviously going to be catching those who live here, but it's also going to show an increase during certain times of the year that tourism is more impactful.
Well, and Mr. Chair, follow up, the state highways, 101, 30, 6, that all forms part of the roadway. So if we can get more money for the maintenance, because 101 is flooding. And I understand we had a study bill for Highway 30 and for Highway 6, but 101 is where all traffic is stopping because of increased flooding. So it isn't just the county roads, but it is also the state highway in there. So, you know what I mean? The connections are there. You're right. It's related, but not exactly.
Yeah, there are state highways throughout Warrenton, Harbor Drive, Main Street, they're all state highways, everything. Pretty thoroughfare the road. Did you?
Yeah.
And this is the message that TFM advocates are have been taking forward for, and we continue to do so. Next, Westport Sewer Service District. And do we have a citizen committee membership on that? Okay. So we will need to elect a chair for the Westport Sewer Service District.
Nominate for chair.
Second.
Moved and seconded to elect Chair Wheeler as the chair of the Westport Sewer Service District Committee. All in favor, signify by line. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next is the election of vice chair. I nominate Vice Chair Bang as the Vice Chair of the Westport Sewer Service District.
Second.
Moved and seconded to elect Courtney Mang, Courtney Mang, the Vice Chair of the Westport Sewer Service District Budget Committee. All those in favor, signify by aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. I'm gonna get through this. Okay, declaration is declaration of any conflicts. Do we have any conflicts? Okay, we'll move on to the approval of the 2023 meeting minutes.
I move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the 2023 meeting minutes. All those in favor, signify by aye. All those opposed? And there's a comment from the public. Do we have anyone that would want to speak on the Westport Sewer Service District? Seeing any, we'll move on to the proposed budget by activity, county staff in Andrew.
Again, this is relatively status quo budget. We're seeing a slight decrease in revenue due to use in the closing accounts, with all offsetting decreases in services. Together, that zero effect for the post budget.
Could you say decreased in what?
I'm sorry, so there's a decrease in both revenue and decrease in materials and services.
So the decrease in revenue, is it just a decrease in population?
My understanding is that there's.
Yeah, there's a delinquent account that was frozen, and so they aren't collecting revenues, they're working with the property owner on that currently, but they anticipate that those revenues, won't be coming in because the account.
How large is the account?
It seems like that.
It was the only. Really happy.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Comment?
Glad to see the sludge cleaned up so that the system functions better, more effectively, more efficiently.
We're still working on that, so we're almost done with the next round. Once we have a common ground, the third round.
Commissioner
How many hookups do we have on this system?
Maybe
90, really very big. Thank you.
Okay, so we can go
Okay,
back
move
to,
on to the equipment replacement. On page 495.
I think the biggest noteworthy item for the proposed budget is gonna be the usage of ARPA funds to replace aging UV treatment system and repair collection issues identified in the facilities plan. You're gonna see that increase in the transfers in line. Outside of that, there's, okay, relatively status quo.
Any questions?
ARPA funds, when do we have to have these?
They have to be obligated by the end of December 2024, and they have to be spent by the end of December 2026.
Oh, 2026.
2026.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, can we move on then to? I don't have a proposed, motion,
This does not, this,
so we would move on to the next.
you have to make a motion to approve the budget as presented, but it does not have a tax fee, it's ordered only by you.
Perfect.
I move to approve the budget as presented.
Second, that one.
Move seconded to approve the budget for the one to the service district as presented. All in favor, signify by aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carried. Next, Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Service District on page 499. Amanda here.
Amanda's here.
And what is on our original
Oh, okay.
Andrew, are you able to move him over to a presenter?
Yes, we're trying to move.
Why do you come? And do you anticipate any of your budget committee members?
I'm cheating here.
Come to the table.
So,
You don't have to.
easier from here.
You're allowed. Yeah, so we have Wiley Thompson, we have anyone else from the 4-H?
There doesn't appear to be anyone
Okay.
online, and so your board will be acting as the budget committee.
Will do. Okay, elected officers, first to be the chair of the Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Service District Budget Committee.
No, nominate Chair, or Commissioner Bangs.
And a second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Moved and seconded to elect. To elect Commissioner White Bangs as chair of Clatsop County 4-H and Extension Service District Budget Committee. All those in favor, signify by aye. All those opposed? Okay, chair. Hey, chair.
Maybe the hold the election of vice chair, I would entertain a motion. I move to elect chair to vice chair. Anybody with a second?
Sorry, first.
All those in favor?
Oh,
Okay. I'm really having trouble hearing. I'm sorry. I'm just not, would everybody just maybe try to speak up a little bit?
Yes.
Yeah.
I need to elect the chair and vice chair.
And I
then
seconded.
Commissioner Thompson seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is their declaration of any conflicts. Okay, next item, approval of the 2023 meeting minutes.
I move approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, are there any comments from the public? Any comments from the public? Okay, so county staff, a review of the proposed budget by activity.
If you want to go ahead and give an overview and then Amanda and Marie can kind of fill in anything that they would like to share.
Okay. So this budget supports approximately 3.47 overseen by the state staff. We're seeing a beginning balance increase as a result of retirements and vacancies, building a lower rate of pay in the salary schedule. And some contingency increases were a result of saving in anticipation of relocating due to lease costs. These have been renegotiated for the time being.
I'm sorry.
Am I mumbling?
Yeah, I can't hear you either.
So this budget supports 3.47 FTE, which are overseen by Oregon State University staff. The beginning balance increases as a result of retirements and vacancies filled at a lower rate of pay on the salary schedule. And the contingency increases were a result of saving in anticipation of relocating due to lease costs. The lease has been renegotiated for the time being.
And, Wiley, would you like to speak? It's easier for you to speak than Amanda to try and get close to the, microphone. And so would you like to speak to some of the programs and offerings that Ori has been able to provide this past year and moving forward into 24-25?
Sure, I'll go ahead and do that. Can you hear me okay?
Oh,
Can you hear me now? Hello?
we can't seem to hear you, Wiley.
Can you
and so Amanda, would you like to speak really loud?
Yeah. I can project.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, so in the County Tourism Extension District, we support a variety of programs for all of the business of County and beyond as well. I want to especially highlight the 4-H program. It's so important to so many participants. We have 691 youth participating in club, school enrichment, and virtual workshops. Club-based programming serves 366 members and has 120 speakers. I'll just note that our current 4-H coordinator is just well respected across the state and receives recognition regularly. We have two our forestry investment. We have a forestry national and a forestry national research specialist surveying the north side of Philadelphia County. So they're involved with the 6th grade forestry days, with forestry leaders tours, and a variety of social to illegal landowners. We have SNAP Ed and family and community health programming, providing nutrition education. We have a very active environmental program, and we were just able to hire new small farms and now faculty positions being supported and provided the state diversity. So that's not being supported by our district. Myself, I work on issues, and then we're also have a faculty member that works who's based on and more.
I defer to the board.
Wiley, can you hear us?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we just can't.
Can you hear me now?
I would just like to.
I
do
can
a
hear you.
special Thank you, because I've been bugging you for years about the small farms person. And I accused you a couple of years ago of, if you saw me in a room turning around.
What
walking
about
out,
now?
You knew we were gonna get, yelled at. So thank you so much. Thank you. I don't think we can.
I'm sorry.
Any further comments? I do have questions with the lease. Thank you, Wiley, for addressing that at the university level, with Oregon State and the programming, but is that like in perpetuity then and with no concern of any changes?
That is our understanding. Thank you, Commissioner, for the question. Yeah, that it is not a temporary memorandum of understanding. There's the agreement.
Perfect. Perfect, thank you. And Wiley, thank you for going to bat for our community and our 4-H extension office here in Clatsop. It was a big lift and I appreciate it. And I know that they appreciate it too, so.
You know, everything that 4-H does in Clatsop County is valuable. I'm particularly interested in, something that I saw this past week on fires, because it looked at the different kinds of fires all over Oregon. It's really such assimilable information, and there were 400 people participating in that. So it went all over the state. Aaron was there, Aaron Gross was there. It was amazing. It was wonderful. Thanks so much for doing all that we treasure every day.
Thank you all. Absolutely. Any further comments? Excellent. I'd entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget of Clatsop County 4-H Extension Service District, tax rate of 0.0534.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded for approval of the budget with the tax rate of 0.0534 per 1,000. All those in favor, signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed?
So if we can pause for just a minute and now have our countywide budget committee members go ahead and come on up to the table.
Is it possible to increase the warmth in this room?
Yeah.
So
I just have to know, it is not playing, there is not playing. And you're somebody typing David. That is the coolest app, by the way. So I was able to save my daughter's home run. I was like, that was cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, so he's a student being teacher, and so sometimes they're. And so just.
Pretty cool.
I'm not, what are we? I've never met you before. Sorry, you're the DA. Popped up.
Okay, we'll go ahead and reconvene at this time and make an introduction, starting with you.
Peter Montero, from Seaside. Gretchen Allen from Napa. Danelle Davis from Esquire. Sarah Stroke, South County.
David Ozer, sorry.
You saw the finance director.
Monica Steele, Assistant County Manager.
Ron Brown, DA.
And Mark Wheeler, County Commission.
Courtney Banks, County Commission. And Thompson County Commission.
John Quayle.
And what, County Commission?
Do we need any housekeeping?
So just a reminder, I know it's really hard because you want to turn and look at the person that you're talking to. But to be able to have audio that we are able to transcribe the minutes from, it's really important that you look at and talk to the owl. So that way it can all be picked up better. And then also just, well, the chair will be here and I'll get your signature, or sorry, the chair, whoever is appointed chair will need your signature before you walk out at the very end of the budget meeting here to make sure we have your signature.
Great, yeah, thank you, Assistant County Manager. We'll start with the election of officers and first is the election of chair. Anybody nomination?
I'd like to nominate Gretchen.
I will not be here at the next meeting.
I nominate David Ozer. I'll second that.
Okay, moved in second to nominate the chair of the County Budget Committee. All those in favor, signify by an eye.
Aye.
All those opposed? I'll turn it over to you.
Sure, well, item number 2 is the election of a vice chair. So can we get a nomination for someone to be vice?
I nominate Peta. And I also have to miss a meeting, so. Shoot, so do I. Oh, no.
No. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone declare a declaration of any conflict?
I have one, I sit on the board of the Soil and Water Conservation District, so when their budget comes up.
If you have any, do you have any financial interest in that? Or
I mean, I sit on the chair, on the board, so I want them to get money.
I think a conflict though is where you have some financial interest in the
Personally, no.
And I also, I'm on the board of plastic behavioral healthcare, but do not receive any comment. So we have the minutes that were sent to us of the 2023 meeting of the budget committee. And can we get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Second, is there any discussion, corrections, recommendations, etc.? No? In that case, we'll have a vote. All those in favor of accepting the minutes? Aye. Opposed? Minutes from last year passed. Does any member of the public wish to make any comments before we begin? Well, apparently not. So we will move right into the review of the proposed budget by activity. And we'll turn this over to the county staff.
So we will go ahead and let DA Brown speak to anything that he would like to talk about, and then Andy will take over in regards to.
Thank you, Monica. I'm Ron Brown. I'm in my sixth year as district attorney. I've been with the county for 20 years. Introduce Lori Johnson and Kristen Webb, the office manager and the child support supervisor, and they do a tremendous job. And we are very proud this year that we've got a full staff. It's been difficult to recruit attorneys, and we got two in the last year, so we're up to full speed again. And it'll be nice to see some a little bit of drug enforcement. Thankfully, it's gotten so out of hand the last few years. I think we can make some inroads there. That's all I have. Thank you.
For both the VA and the child support budget, both balances for the proposed budget really aren't moving around very much at all. FP remaining the same, very status quo balance.
Just to expand a little bit, the DA's budget is a general fund supported budget. They get very little in regards to, you know, other outside revenues. They do get grants, and then they do get some, line of discovery charges, revenues in some instances. The child support budget is a federally state funded as well as general fund supported budget as well.
I have a question. What are special investigations? This is on page 177. Special investigations are where we have significantly large cases. We end up with a multiple homicide or homicide where we may have to bring witnesses from all over. We've also been dealing in the last few years with the Ramos case that came out of the United States Supreme Court and the Oregon Supreme Court in regard to non-unanimous verdicts. And so we thought we'd have to be retrying some of those. We're asking for less money for that because that hasn't proven yet to be the case. But it's still early in terms of knowing exactly the full impact. So this is a difficult line item to figure out. It is, yeah.
Chair. Thank you. I was in the unenviable position of calling DA Brown and apologizing for voting against his financial interest in the Association of Oregon Counties. We certainly understood the expansion of law enforcement benefits, PERS benefits, to assistant DAs expands the scope of the expense by expanding the coverage of that, I would call it a richer retirement system that was originally intended to be for law enforcement and firefighters, but has gradually expanded. So now it's 911 operators and other law enforcement related people, as well as deputy DAs. DA, did you get included at the end of it? Were you included as well? Or
yes, I believe that's true, yeah.
Yeah, so we can expect to see more expense with PERS line items because of the state changes and who gets to have that richer retirement system. Just pointing that out as a long-term trend.
Thank you, Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Mayor.
I don't see an increase in staffing, in the district attorney's office. I was just curious about the increase in general fund support. It's not a lot, it's only 4%, but over the last, since 2021, it's close to $1 million more than what from when I started, basically. And so I'm just curious, is that, PERS benefits? What is that kind of, that has increased kind of accounting for?
So I can speak a little bit to that, in regards to what Ron mentioned, early on, is we have been budgeting for the positions to be filled. And in many instances, it has taken them a significant amount of time to fill the deputy DA positions. They are now fully staffed. And so when if you're looking at, prior year actuals, to your point, it's almost $1 million less. In some instances, that's because those positions were vacant, and then also because there have been ongoing PERS increases, healthcare increases, and then just cost of living increases as well.
Any other questions? All right. And that covers both the district attorney and child support. All right, then we can move on, I think,
I just wanted to make a comment.
to.
Any improvement depending on the vote. That is a wonderful program, and I'm just really grateful. And
We're very proud, we've got our halftime, Spanish speaking, for it as well. It's amazing, the number of victims we have there that, don't speak English, and they are very skeptical, so that accordingly.
my dad volunteers every year, and I'm just grateful that we have it.
So,
I'm a little confused about which group of papers we're considering. Are we on the main budget?
Yeah,
I don't
so
understand why we got this.
this is just an agenda, so that way you can kind of see, like, right now, we're talking about today, and these are the programs that he oversees. Yeah, that's it.
no, and in fact, I will, as we go forward, I will announce these page numbers, and as we get into, areas where there are multiple funds, we'll take questions fund by fund, as opposed to here. But it is sometimes difficult
It's
to follow along.
I just was. Thank you. But can I do one more quick, just a plug for the special report. I go to those offices, and it's so heartwarming to see people reclaiming their lives and the expertise, and the joy of all of the staff and the community members who can see hope now that lives can be go forward positively. I mean, it's wonderful. So glad we do that.
And we're going to be expanding it more for veterans as well. That's coming right along.
And
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you very much. Very proud. So we're going to go through a number of items in public safety and justice. And Sheriff Matt Phillips, I'll lead us through that. We'll begin on page 183. This is the medical examiner. But
All right, to kick off, I just want to take a minute, we're gonna have 10 budgets here at the sheriff's office. So I just want to talk generally, and then we'll get into the specifics. We've worked hard on this budget this year to be very financially responsible. We're certainly quite aware of the changes to timber revenue and how those decreases will affect us. I know that the financial values and principles that the county has been committed to for years has allowed us to build the funds that we have now, the contingencies. We've weathered worse storms. It came out okay. And we know that there's a big one brewing out. But I do believe fundamentally that we have time to address it. We started working on it last year with our budget. As I mentioned earlier, we only saw the beginning fund balance of our rural log go down to 21,000. Really budgeted for substantially more. So we are aware, working diligently to find new revenues if possible. We know there's some that are coming up, like the community correction. This is a cost study year where they recalculate what the state should be paying per person on supervision. We also know that while we've seen a decrease in the number of people on supervision and the revenues that we received from that was because of the COVID pandemic and the courts being very slow and backlined. And that number is projected to go up substantially as these cases are getting resolved. We'll also see funding for people that will be supervised under House Bill 4002. So some people won't do the shutdown for a drug charge will be brought under the supervision of the community corrections department. So there'll be funding for that. We already talked about it a little bit with the jail. We are looking to achieve new revenues by renting some jail beds to Washington County. That would be really significant. I think that $700,000 a year or more we could grow would definitely help offset some of the costs. So, that's kind of a overview. We're not adding positions this year. People moved from one budget to another. So, we saw some increase in the corrections because we moved two people from our support division to the corrections because it just made better sense for the supervision of those employees. So that's kind of a rough overview, and I guess we'll get into more detail on each of these budgets. If you would like me to hit the medical examiner highlights, if you have to do that, or Andy, if you want to do it, sure. Okay.
Unless there are any questions that were very general in nature, we will. Let's start with medical examiner, that's on page 183.
So medical examiner budget, haven't changed or all there are no new status quo budget, with a slight increase, but all other possibly.
And.
So I gotta keep it down, I'm projecting, sorry. So again, medical examiner budget, status quo. And let me know if I'm going too fast, maybe you laugh. Oh, thank you.
I just, am seeing 40% increase in overtime is because we're projecting to be super busy or, like,
I think it's more to capture what it's actually costing, or we're doing everything we can. Last year, we didn't have both of our part-time positions filled, and so then detectives from the enforcement division were more expensive, we're filling that. Hopefully we won't have to use that overtime, because
I mean, it's $7,000, but I was looking at it going, huh, I wonder what's happening.
But if you'll notice from 22, 23, it's a decrease from 34.
So I was like, I don't know if I want to know, but I thought I'd ask.
Anything else on medical examiner? Anything else you wanted to continue? I mean, nothing? All right, then we will move to the next fund, which is the sheriff support division, which is on page 186.
Yeah, go ahead. Here's where you get this. This is one of the org units that's experiencing, right? If you look at just the numbers, there's a decrease in personnel. That's all in part to FTEs being transferred to FTEs being transferred, the corrections budget. Outside of that, the balance really don't move around too much in previous years.
Questions? I have a question on this one. The concealed handgun license seems to me ought to be a real profit center for the county. It should certainly cover the cost of the CHL special. Are we prevented from charging what?
yes, the state sets the rates for the license.
Like that.
And so $15 goes to the state, and depending on whether it's a renewal or new, we get $100 and $75 to the county.
And that, I take it, does not cover cost. All right, any other questions? The support division.
I got four of them.
So we will move to enforcement, starting here at 191. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
I have a question because I assume it's covered with you. You recently, talked to us about, a new system of reporting time rates that you're integrating throughout.
Yeah.
You know, that's a passion. But did that cost anything?
Yeah, so earlier when I was talking about the $500,000 for the records management and computer aided dispatch system, that's what we're talking about.
And so where did we got that money? Right,
Well,
that was
Yeah, so if our budget shows it coming in the 23-24 budget, but we're actually gonna receive the check on July 1. So it'll show up in the 24-25 actual budget.
So that's actually included.
That's included in here. And so we are working very diligently, specifically under Sheriff Williams, to have a very tight timeline so that we can get implementation done as soon as possible. We're shooting for a 1-year implementation. They say it's generally 18 months. But it is a big project. Again, we found funding to provide new records management system to replace the legacy for every police department in the county. And the computer aided dispatch will benefit every law enforcement and fire agency in the county.
And is most of that money going to our staff or is it going to consult?
It's going to the computer programming company that creates this platform.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Andy, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah, well, Sheriff, words right out of my mouth, for the Sheriff Corrections Division, when we look at the district's proposed budget, the largest increase we've seen in materials and services that is all related to, let's see, dispatch and record management. Any other increases we're seeing in personnel that have all to do with cost of living adjustments, restructuring.
On the revenue side, can you talk a little bit about the revenue from a rural law enforcement division, how that works, how that's allocated?
It's roughly a 50-50 split for the enforcement division. And then there is also a percentage for each of the different staff divisions, support division as well. And we have a very complex spreadsheet like calculated. That's if you call it 50-50, that's about what it is.
The rural law enforcement district budget transfers funds into, support division, enforcement division, and then it also transfers some into marine patrol.
I have just a quick question. I'm just noticing like there's a decrease in the beach patrol underfunding. Has it shifted?
So we have a contract with State Park, and for a long time, we had a big cohort of retired law enforcement officers that were happy to fill that full-time, part-time job, but it's full-time for the duration of the contract. And it's been really hard to find those people these days. They kind of aged out, I guess, and there's kind of, I don't know, I guess law enforcement get hired in generations, and there's really not those people right now. So that's been more difficult to fill. We've been doing that with a little bit of overtime with the reserve deputies that we have. And so the state contract is flat, we can't fill it.
Okay.
Commissioner Vance, you had a question?
It's on the funding sources, so Timber State enforcement fund revenue. Is somebody else paying for our deputy in the work, basically?
Yeah, we have that 1%.
And that's the separate timber enforcement funds.
So I'm just curious, can we lobby for a second officer because of our increase in household camping in the woods and also the increase of, camping and, I mean, that costs the county alone and also the state lands is pretty high. So I'm just trying to see if we can get another deputy on the rolls and not have it too much.
That'd be a discussion to have.
Yeah, it would be a discussion to have. We do receive, it's like the sheriff said, it's 1%, it's that statute. And so it's all dependent on the timber revenues that you're receiving as to what you can support.
Yeah, I think we best to leave it alone.
Yeah, we're not gonna get anywhere with that. I tried.
I have a
Question. So this is more, going back historically to the jail project. Can you tell me in the original budget of 5.206, 5.2 million basically that was going to take to run the jail, what makes up that original budget? Do you know? And that's probably a lot.
Well, so we're still in the enforcement budget.
Is that not in here?
It's in the correction.
Okay, I tried
Yeah.
to look and I was
Yeah,
trying to
so
remember, okay.
we can get to that one if you're.
Because I saw jail medical in here, is that not in?
It's not in the enforcement budget,
Am I
so,
on the wrong page?
Yeah, jail medical.
yeah. We're still on enforcement, the next one, and when we get to sheriff corrections on page 196.
Okay, so
Yeah.
that is where the jail, that's what I mean is which of these line items made up that 5.2 million estimate that it was gonna take to run the jail? When the project came to fruition and the voters voted it in, that was the estimate, basically. What,
So are we done
Makes-
talking about the
Yeah, I'd like to
enforcement?
finish up with the enforcement.
okay, well, I'm just, because if enforcement isn't part of that, that's what I was.
No,
trying-
enforcement are the deputies that are out patrolling the roads, that's the enforcement division, and so those deputies are separate from the corrections division. Corrections are the jail deputies that are running the jail.
And then the jail medical would have been part of that. So yeah, and you could let me know what ones made that up, that'd be great.
Yeah, are there any other questions or comments regarding the enforcement division?
Just
project?
one, I see that peer support is no longer funded. That was a grant program. Is there any hope for that to come back? Because I'm told that that's one of the most important, community support mechanisms we have.
So the great thing about the grant is they've got a lot of our staff in the trainings that we needed. Trainer type things, and the program continues to be really strong even without that.
Okay, so we don't have the funding, but we have the residual benefits
Yeah.
to the card, we would incorporate it into the culture of the organization.
Exactly.
Fair.
Anything else on enforcement? Yeah.
Retirement included for,
Yes.
I have a hopefully quick one. Canine maintenance, this seems to have made a giant jump.
There is a jump, but we have one canine handler that is, retiring canine, we're trying to bring one on. And there'll be a slight bit of overlap so that there can be some training and some handoff there, but that'll be a one-time expense.
The acquisition.
Yeah. And we think that we might be able to save a substantial amount on not having to purchase a canine, because we happen to have a Malinois dog at the animal shelter that we have been working with and temperament testing, and we think it might be a canine. There's no promises, but that would be really fantastic and a great story if that was done.
I want to apologize, Greg, I can't see you very well. So if you want to say, yeah. All right, so let us move on then to the sheriff's correction division. That starts on page 196. And I think perhaps one or the other, if you want to speak to that, since probably there are a number of questions about it.
So Andy, if you want to go ahead and just kind of kick off, and then we can address, Gretchen's question more specifically.
Certainly, so the corrections divisions where we're seeing that increase in FTE, but it's not really an increase in FTE, the transfer from the sheriff support division. Outside of that, revenue is relatively flat. We are seeing a small increase in material services, thanks to cost savings there. That is my summary.
And so Gretchen, if you could please clarify your question that you have.
Yeah, my question is what, do they call these organizational units? We have sheriff's corrections division, jail medical. What are the other departments that were part of that original budget? Like,
So originally, jail medical was included in the corrections division. We broke it out because, since we have a greater ability to have a larger population, it has become very evident that our population is much thicker than originally. And so being able to more clearly define what is related to medical costs, which includes, mental health as well as physical health, as well as, you know, some of the expenses that we incur when somebody is in jail is related to if they have cancer. We are responsible for providing their chemo treatment. And so those costs, are really difficult to, know what they're going to be, because we don't know who the population is that's gonna come in. So we have separated out jail medical so we can just better track that. And then the corrections division is more specific to the deputies who are in there and the, you know, equipment and stuff like that associated with maintaining jail.
so does their own health insurance, if they have any, come into play at all?
And that's That's another thing at the legislative level that has, we've been having conversations about because, and I will commend the sheriff and his team and he can speak to it, but if the individual is out of our custody and in the hospital for more than 24 hours, we quickly transition, who has custody of them, so then it's not the county's responsibility.
Well, actually, the person can become eligible for OHP if they've been in the hospital for more than 24 hours. And that becomes really critical where we have someone who has a stroke in the jail or a major heart condition. But that first 24 hours we own. And that can be a very expensive 24 hours. Our jail commander, Tom Teague, is the chair of the Oregon Jail Command Council. One of the things he's been doing at his monthly meetings, statewide meetings, is he has representatives from OHA talking about the 1115 waiver, which we think will come in 2026, and that will provide for OHP benefits for pretrial defendants for the first 90 days that they're in custody. So, again, that is the silver lining. That's something we're looking forward to that could offset a substantial amount of our jail medical costs.
And I'm sorry, and to what the sheriff spoke to earlier, it is not included in this budget, but he is having those conversations with Washington County. So that would be revenue that is not currently projected in the budget until we have finalized.
So comparatively to the prior, what they projected, we're about 2 million over with the two, the corrections and the jail medical, we're at about 7.2 million overall for the jail.
Overall for the jail from the time that we originally went out to request the bond. Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the increases in materials and prescriptions and all that.
Commissioner Vang and then Commissioner Phil. Raise your hand.
Through my understanding is Medicaid, Medicare, OHA, everything shuts off the second that they go through intake at the jail. And that includes drugs, alcohol, everything. And there's nothing from the state that offsets that expense for us.
No, we believe that in 2026 that we will get some relief.
And I just want to say thank you. You advocated for us and for this particular topic. Senator Merkley, so I appreciate that. I was unaware that everything. I thought we, so thank you.
Well, just to address that, like county manager, they're talked about, that so expensive, medical jail. There's so many variables, but you're doing a sick population. So, explore other options like maybe help with self-cure to help mitigate. It's not a slam dunk, administrator. Partly self-cure, it might help, some of those stopgap, with a larger population to get to Southern Washington County, it might have an economy of scale to help us mitigate those costs. But it's just something you have to look at, you have to take a look at it and say, hey, the cost of the insurance, cost of all this third-party administrator, versus the benefit of that partial self-cure, will it help with police circumstances, what benefit is it to the county? But I know we're exploring all kinds of avenues, but it is a twisted reimbursement policy there.
Commissioner Webb and then Dave Hall. Let me get these in order. I think Ms. Davis, first Commissioner Webb, and Ms. Davis.
Say this is go more deeply into your concerns. This is something we've been talking about during the planning jail. One of the things that I think really distinguished our sheriff, I think as a former corrections chief himself, was very sensitive to the fact that we wanted to increase the size of our clinic. And that had many implications, which the sheriff was very aware of and cautioned us about the provision. Unfortunately, in the early stages, it was our former sheriff And we had to wait until we got our new sheriff, who was much more amenable to having a larger jail that he was responsible for, even though, because of all of us wanting to be able to give some kind of clinical help within our jail. And we have been talking to the legislature about this for 5 sessions. And so we were very aware of the budget implications when we expanded. That's
Yeah, and I'm trying to fit it into the overall, everything coming up, because this is in large part supported by the general fund. It's also the fund that is looking at those tourism dollars, which are actually much smaller than probably realized. It's not a lot that's gonna come over from those tourism dollars. Yet I keep hearing that that's what is going to bail a lot of this out. It's not enough. And so that's where I wanted to fully understand what this is, because I don't fully understand it. I wasn't part of the planning phases or anything, and I do appreciate what you've done. And I think that this is an important piece that Clatsop County voters voted in. And it needs to be fully functioning, fully operational, and doing what the voters, even though I wasn't for it. You know, I still think that when people vote something in, that should be what happens, you know,
Well,
even if I didn't vote for it.
Being fully operational, one of the things that I'm proud of our county for, and I think it's a great success story, is the medication assisted treatment program we got in jail. And we're only contributing half an FTE to that. Partnerships with CBH, they're paying for the whole thing, other than half FTE. So there's basically us in Clackamas County that operate from the jail. And again, our jail commander is part of a road show to show other jails how they can do this. And I've received letters and voicemails from parents saying, thank you. Someone finally got my kids some treatment. And that's only part of the equation, because it needs to go on and continue outside of custody. If our job is to change behavior, this is one of the ways we're finding some success.
And now on the
My question is really just, I'm curious how those first 24 hours in the ER are tracked.
Well,
Specifically, so if it's clear somebody goes in and spends 24 hours consecutively. But what if they're there for 4 hours of discharge and have to go back and it adds up, does it? How does that?
Every time.
It's a new 24 hours every single time.
Yeah. So you'd be, exactly.
So if they go in and like 30 times. Wow,
Yeah.
okay. Interesting, thank you.
And I will tell you, we have increased the nurse staff substantially. We used to have 2, we now have 4. Without a doubt, a jail is the biggest area of liability for a county. Hands down. And you know, deaths in custody, which happens in every county in the state. And we had some ourselves. And it's sometimes it's just wild stuff that you can't even imagine. It's very stubborn, but we can help prevent that by having more clinical staff on duty. And so we're doing our best to get, you know, close to 20 hours a day. It's not perfect because we have no relief factor. We also go on vacation, we have both. But we're doing our best to make sure that people with very complex chronic health conditions have trained eyes looking at them and evaluating them, and knowing when to get them out of the facility if necessary, how to treat what they do have that we can manage. And we've actually historically saved a lot of money by having increased our medical care, because we can deal with things real time instead of a deputy going, oh, I think we just need to go to the hospital. We have a doctor and a nurse. And everything people.
We've also increased our jail medical director, and then we've also, to the sheriff's point about the MAP program, we also are utilizing our public health officer through that process as well. So there's a lot more involvement from the medical.
I'm curious, in the contract with Washington County, will Washington County, retain the burden of paying for medical care?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, and medications.
Can they adopt one? No.
I'm curious about what you're doing to look at offsetting and self-insuring and all of that. Have you consulted with them and where they have to?
Well, self-insurance is only a conversation we had a couple days ago.
Not yet.
I don't know that we have enough things to do self-insurance.
Think you do?
But CIS has a little grant. He is a risk manager specifically for corrections. And she works with our jail, all jails throughout the state to, you know, identify best practices. They do have some grants available to help reduce areas of liability. So we work closely with.
Because they were formed by cities and counties to meet the needs of cities and counties. So they are not a private insurer. And if we have something to say, and we've got their practices, and we can use that to create a CIS kind of self-insurance, that's a different critter, and that might address some of your, as Peter said, though.
No, I ran a health plan.
No. The reality check again.
Commissioner Bennett,
I was just curious, is community corrections revenue a new revenue stream or is that like a grant or what is that?
Community corrections, so that's full probation.
Okay.
And we usually take some of their money, like more than $400,000 worth. And that kind of goes back to the story of Senate Bill 1145. I think 145. That's when the state said that we're responsible for anyone with a felony sentence less than a year. And they said that we're going to make the counties whole, that we're going to give it to a state program that's run by the county. And now that we've seen revenues decrease for community corrections, we've had to pull back a little bit to keep them running. But again, I think we will see, I know I will see increases to community corrections funding next year.
Then with the new measure fix, the last court commission, is there any funding coming to the county for the changes that are being made with the lawfulness of?
Diversion, deflection.
Yeah.
A little over 400,000.
So we'll get into that when we move on to the community.
I didn't mean to jump the gun. I just thought we were talking jail.
Yeah.
What's happening with the old jail? Is it being sold, used?
So, the county,
You smile like.
so this will be further discussion in the special projects budget.
Oh.
But not all of you might be here for that conversation. So, we went through the space planning process this last year, and that's where we identified, you know, significant pinch points for some of our departments. And so we were working with architect Sierra to look at what we like to call the Duane Street Annex.
Yeah.
And what would need to happen to remodel that. Because of the extensive costs associated with that, we found it best to postpone that project because we don't want to take on debt because we don't know what our revenue streams look like. So at this point in time, you know, we do utilize it. The sheriff's office sometimes uses it for training. We utilize it for storage space. We are doing things to maintain the infrastructure, the building itself. But we're going to postpone that project until we have clarity.
I hadn't connected that was the end, sorry.
Yeah. We don't want to call it the old or the old jail.
Well, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I do remember that now.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I think we have kind of talked about both the corrections division and jail medical. Those three funds. Are there any other questions or comments on either of them? If not, we will move to the next item, which is the animal control, which is on page 209.
That was good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're skipping around.
Yeah, sorry, we have this set up so that way the sheriff can just come up once and speak to all of the, specific.
And it's on the agenda,
Thank you.
but I will announce.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. So within the animal control division, again, relatively status quo, there's a slight decrease in FTE of 0.1. I think this is largely contributed to adjustment for the working schedule, 0.3. Outside of that, that's really the most impactful item for animal control division. Was gonna go straight into animal shelter donations, but okay.
Questions on animal control?
Yeah, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
We say that we would, if there are no questions on animal control, we can move directly to animal shelter, page 213. But if there are questions on control, it's now over. Yes, you know.
It's humanity.
So we're covering, for the agenda, we're covering all the things that started with the sheriff's director. Yeah.
Is there any hope of Astoria City working with the county as far as animal control?
I don't know, actually, under sheriff, you might have best situated that, but I don't, that's been kind of a conversation, once upon a time, but I have not heard that come up.
The cost, we decided as a county that we owed our county citizens a certain level of service, which is at least one staff member plus Justin. For a city to get services directly from animal control will require them to support entirely for a part of the position or a full position. We have reached out to Warrenton, Astoria, Seaside with regard to whether or not they want a bigger position or something of that nature. And fairly early in the talks, and there doesn't seem to be much interest at this point.
As a veterinarian locally, how can we enable that to happen? Like many of the citizens don't realize, and Astoria don't realize that there's no animal control. The officers that I speak to are not equipped to handle. They don't know anything about the disease of rabies. They don't know anything about the disease of leptospirosis. They don't know anything about what is required for an officer to handle a fractious animal. How do we make it happen that animal control is countified? It really is a necessity. There is becoming, there are fewer and fewer people spaying and neutering their dogs. I'm sure you guys are running into this. We are, licensing cats could be another funding source, it seems. But currently, I mean, the fact that these cities are not supporting animal control countywide, there's a real problem. It is a really big problem, not just for law enforcement, but for veterinarians too.
Yeah.
It really spills over on dogs.
It really does. It really, really does. I would love to see that happen. Is there anybody that has any ideas? Yes.
I noticed the dog licenses are down. Are people just not doing it? And also, I'm sorry, incinerator revenue down? What?
Well,
What are we doing with them then? I don't know.
part of it is incinerator broke down for a while, and
Well, and to add to that, the incinerator broke down, and so people were going elsewhere, and those elsewhere places offer things like putting your animal into a necklace, something like that, and the animal shelter doesn't provide that service.
God, and there's 3 incinerators for animals in this county. I have one of them. We don't put animals in there.
There are places that offer,
I know what you mean.
types of, yeah,
It's true.
yeah. And so in regards to the licensing fees, that's cyclical, and so you'll see it go up and down in regards to.
And to your point of the incinerator breaking down, it is very expensive to get ThermTech, the company that makes it, to come out here. They charge you from wherever their start point is. If they are in Baker, Oregon, they are gonna charge you hourly to drive to Astoria, not from their place. I know this because I go round and round and round with them. So getting ThermTech to come out and fix the county shelter incinerator is beyond expensive.
We were down for what, like?
I'm sure, I'm sure you were.
For a while.
Yeah.
It was a challenge, but part of it is it get working again and then break down.
Yeah.
Work again, break down, come on, really, just fix it, right?
Right.
So it's proposed to be down. I mean, it's 13,000 down. And are
And
you,
part of that is because of the fact that people are
Just
going to where they can get a memorial of their.
Yeah.
Well, I think we budget our revenues pretty conservatively. We don't wanna,
yeah, no, I get that.
we'd rather undershoot that one,
Yeah.
because we got a balance for budget, so we're gonna keep our.
I agree with that concept wholeheartedly. I'm wondering if the dog licenses though, I mean, it is cyclical, but wonder if you'll see more people not doing that in these times where they can't afford other things.
I think I would recommend improvement been on the list. If we can get the stability and the staffing, we have a new supervisor out there. He's got to be firmly, under him now. Keaton, who was our animal control officer, he was doing a great job and he got a job as a Kansas police officer. That's something he gets inspired to do. And so now we lose someone and it's a lean shop. So, people have to wear multiple hats and licensing is definitely a place we can probably look at.
I just have a clarification on a category under funding, it just says cap. Not licensing or anything like that, so I'm not sure where that would be, what it's from.
Yeah.
I just have a quick.
Oh, so I'm not sure which budget to bring this idea up, or this thought process up, whether or not it's this one or the animal shelter. Portion, yeah, I'm just thinking, so I took like 23 cats to the Portland Trail Cat Coalition to get them all fixed. And then I brought them back to my property and released them because they were all wild. I'm just curious if we have thought about partnerships with nonprofit agencies such as themselves, where they're probably overwhelmed. I don't know, I'm trying to look for funding and solve that problem and.
The supervisor is definitely been talking about a trap neuter release program.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
But bandwidth is the issue.
Yeah.
But he's hard charging, he's made a lot of improvements, I believe. And we're working with volunteers to get them up. And so we're moving that way.
But there's grant funding out there for it, it's just having the right employee to do the right legwork.
Yeah. So to your point about the reduction in dog licenses, I can give you some information. Clients don't value or don't see the importance of licensing their dog. That's why it's not happening. So there you go. In a nutshell, they don't understand why we license or why it's important. I see it every day. To your point of the trap neuter return, getting something out here in Clatsop County, Feral Cat has their own stick building now. They used to drive around in vans and we used to spay neuter, I used to volunteer for them and do surgeries for them. They don't drive around really anymore. They have their own building that they operate out of.
Yes, I visited it.
I'm sure you have.
20
It's
cats.
beautiful, nice, it's a nice, beautiful building, but to get them to come out here, I think would be, for lack of better words, an act of mother nature.
Yeah.
Um,
And they gave all the cats back to me, which was.
but to reassure you on the trap neuter, I have actually spoken with
Justin about a trap neuter return and working it, because we have one at the clinic and we have had for years. Where we trap them, or one of my clinic friends trap them and we do them. He wants to expand on that, so it's being talked about. Yes.
Thank you. More interesting.
Kind of an interesting thing, you know, I work with a lot of estates and trusts, and there are Clatsop County residents that, I actually have one before me right now, that all of, they have an ability to give their money to, and they are giving it literally to, just for charities. No, for charities, that's where the money will go when they go. Has Clatsop County thought about, like, you know, an animal fund, something that people could put in their will? To create something like that in Clatsop County for animal lovers, because we have a plethora of them.
So we have been fortunate in years past enough that the animal enhancement fund is more specific for those individuals. I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, somebody left us about $60,000. And so we do get some of those. One of the things that we can do in regards to the licensing as well as that is we can work with our communications team to do kind of a social media outreach to kind of educate people on both of those aspects. I do just want to bring this time to everybody's attention. We do have a board meeting this evening and we want to give the board, and we have it set up. So if we could move, if we could get through a few more so that way we can, then breakdown of the board meeting.
So unless there's any very specific questions about animal control, we'll go to animal shelter, which is on page 213.
And to that, kind of like we just mentioned, this is basically a fund where people can make donations, and we typically try to build up these reserves. It does help pay for specifically major capital projects.
Questions on that topic, on the animal shelter? Okay. If not, we will go then to the marine control, which is on page 216.
So I'll just kind of jump in really quick. So this is again a status quo budget. Unfortunately, the state continues to underfund this program. And so we do what we can with the resources that we have, which includes some support from RLED and some support from the general fund, and the rest is state funded. And we have 1.5 FTE to support that division.
Do we get a larger allotment than other counties because of Columbia and?
Of course not. That would be pretty silly.
Then an argument that the sheriff's office has made for a number of years.
And you're always talking about changing the formula, and so we're getting about as good a deal as we can get.
Pretty sure Jackson doesn't have any water, so.
We have a lake to get it.
Oh, well, that's true. Never mind. Other counties down there. Shoots. The shoots.
We will move now to community correction. This is on page, the jump to page 231.
So this is the division that has been spoken about where the deflection funds will be coming into, and this is a change that is being proposed now. It's not something that is currently proposed to you because we did not have the information at the time. But the changes to the Measure 110 program, or the Measure 110 changes, means that we will be getting approximately $203,000. And so that will be supporting an additional FTE for a deflection program coordinator. And so we are asking you all at this time to increase the budget by $203,340, which will also increase the FTE to, I think it's 13.1.
So will that be a continuing allotment from?
We will receive another $203,000 next fiscal year. Beyond that, we don't have any further.
So do we have a plan if?
This is all big money. That we get to decide how to allocate and use. Again, I know that there will be increases coming.
I just, like, if the state just shuts that valve off and.
Then that position would be eliminated.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
that was
yeah,
what
this
I was
is,
getting.
yeah, this is purely a state funded position, and so as long as there's funding from the state, the position will exist.
Okay, so we'll just keep asking for funding from the state.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've been really successful with is the Justice Reinvestment Grant, which is state money, criminal justice commission coming into this historically it's funded the pretrial release program. The state decided to muck that up, in my opinion. And so the two people that we had hired and were running that program with, we've turned that over to state courts. So the next time the grant becomes available, we'll use that to support our staff instead of just the state. So we'll see.
Do we need a separate motion for that thing, or is that going to be part of that?
We have all of the changes because we do have an.
All right.
So if I may, Chair, I'll go on to the courthouse security fund, which is the next one.
Are there other, I just want to make sure if there are any other questions on the community correct? Well, in that case, fine.
Perfect. So the courthouse security fund is another program that the county has the responsibility of maintaining the court building, maintaining the courthouse and the security that is provided at the courthouse. You will see in the special project fund that we are still planning to do the single point of interest project. But that will not reduce any cost in any way. It'll just make the courthouse a more secure space. We do get very little funding from the state for court security. That's part of that $49,000. That's what we get. The rest of this is all general fund supported. We do what we can to try and have the least expensive deputy maintain. That does not that they're qualifications, they're not the highest. It's just that we try to have the more entry level. He just is, newly entered in on the lower end of the salary schedule. So it's a good opportunity for them, and they rotate them every 3 months, 4 months.
It's a good start.
We should do your.
Yeah. So, but this is again, it's a status quo budget. Any questions?
Did you want to break at this point?
If we could get to the very end, then both the DA and the sheriff would be meeting their obligations, because you'll have to.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So the state timber enforcement.
So this is the one that we spoke to.
This is on page 239.
Thank you, yeah. This is the one we spoke to earlier, and this is per statute, 1% of the timber revenue goes towards this, and it is dedicated for a deputy in the.
It's not right, but.
Timber
42, I'm sorry, 242.
So obviously, we're gonna have a reduction. Do I need to add this to the plate of what I'm talking to?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just add it to the plate, because I don't foresee the state is gonna backfill this funding for this FTE for this one office.
So this, when this 1% happens, it's all part of that distribution piece, and it comes off of that. So it's part of the conversation already.
Keep it in.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last, is that the last one we have?
Yep.
No, we will.
So, just so you're aware, in regards to the compensation, it has been a standard practice that the county pays, those, elected officials who supervise county staff at least 10% above what their, highest paid, person below them makes. And so both the sheriff's salary is set 10% above the undersheriff, and the DA's stipend, since he is not actually a county employee, we make up the difference between what the state pays the DA versus what the deputy DA makes. And that stipend is set to be 10% more than what the deputy DA makes. It makes up that difference. So the deputy DA's salary, we typically get that information from the state. And then if it comes in a little bit less or a little bit more, then we make those adjustments accordingly. And that is what is being presented to you all.
This is somewhere in the budget.
Yes, the DA's stipend is budgeted in the district attorney's budget, and the sheriff's, salary is budgeted in the enforcement system.
There's just no page numbers on the agenda.
For this portion of
For
it,
the
yeah.
sheriff.
Anyone wish to comment or question?
No.
All right, in that case, we will adjourn until our next scheduled meeting, which is by Zoom. And we will allow.
Is child custody part of it?
Child custody is part of public safety and justice, but that's managed by the county manager's office. And so the public safety and justice programs that we were trying to get through were all those associated with the DA and the sheriff. The other ones, such as emergency management, child custody, law library, and juvenile, will cover in our next.
We will, if we have the agenda, we will start next time with emergency management.
I will not be here next time, neither will another.
I would urge you to specific questions on the next on the please provide.
Appreciate that, yeah.
Your next meeting.
Oh, well, Kara's missing, two are missing. We have
So we really need to know when people are gonna be able to meet next, because we do have to kind of keep it on schedule. So if folks have, let me just pull up and see.
maybe a doodle poll.
Well, yeah, we don't really have time for it, because that's a week away. Let me see if I can.
Well, we have May 15th, which that's the one people can't come to. May 22nd, the weekend, go through. And then, could you just add one on the end?
We can, yeah, well, yeah, so if you were just talking about this canceling, we do have one already proposed, I think.
May 22nd.
Yeah, and so what we would have to do is, one that following week, if we had to go beyond that, but yeah, we can do May 22nd.
Yeah, I'm interested in that. That would make my life.
So we're
So yeah, we'll cancel May
Yes, I would love to read it, thank you.
Do that.
I was like, no, I wasn't gonna, I was just gonna videotape her from here, like a paparazzi
Will ya?
moment. Yes, I'm totally gonna do that.
You just have to unmute.
I'm hoping my computer.
Two things was the star six, and then this should be the master. Well, you don't even have to star six. No, I do, it's, that's what.
Bless you.
Oh, gotcha.
I felt that over here.
And as far as. So we need to start the recording again. Okay, so you already, this is the selfie. It's paused. Is this the selfie?
Can you give us like
I
2
haven't
more
done
minutes?
anything with it.
Okay, cause I gotta get this up and running.
So we just need to start the recording.
We'll get started here in just a minute. A little bit tardy, we just start budget.
I just started the recording.
I have to go onto my car and get my,
That was nice. Leanne's going to her car, she'll be right back.
Just wait till he says he's ready.
It'll give me a chance to get this thing up and running.
You don't have a camera. What do you?
If you want to, yeah.
just to
So
kind
I'm
of
on
help
camera with our.
provide some.
Yeah, that's correct.
And then Dan and them don't have anything prepared, but they're here for questions.
Oh, say something? Oh. Did you want us to talk about it? Public comment?
Do you need a napkin? I'm
Oh,
sure you
here.
need a napkin. Can I have one of those? Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's not good. Three different proclamations.
Eva, how are you? Good. Good to see you.
I'm so sorry about yesterday. Huh? I can breathe out of both nostrils sometimes. No, I'm kidding. Ugh.
Waste management as well, or?
I don't think I printed.
Yeah. Well, I have to, I'll touch base. Was Dan there yesterday? I can call him and he can give me a,
Yeah, Stevenson.
I know.
Stevenson or whatever, but here's.
That's kind of why he's my go-to. Okay, we're set. Oh.
Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Here's that.
Ready? All right. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to welcome everybody here this evening. Clerk of the Board, can we have the roll call?
Chair Wheeler,
Here.
Vice Chair Banks,
Here.
Commissioner Toyota. Here. Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Mr. Thompson.
Here. Thank you. We have the agenda in front of us. We do have an amendment to the agenda, item 10A, Aldrich Point Lease Agreement. So we'll need to approve the agenda with that amendment.
I move to approve agenda with that amendment.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the agenda with the amendment of item 10A, Aldrich Point Lease Agreement. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Commissioner Thompson is okay there? All right, so.
A sneaky little pineapple.
Okay, first item is the proclamation, Children's Mental Health Awareness Week on page 4, and Shailene Bangs, Miss Clatsop County Teen is here. Welcome.
Hi, and thank you for having me today. My name is Shaylin Bangs, and I'm Miss Clatsop County's Teen 2024. 1 in 6 kids experience mental health concerns each year, and 70% of those children do not receive adequate care. For rural communities like ours, access to care is more limited. I want to thank you guys so much for considering this proclamation. Access to pediatric mental health is very important for our community's children. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. We're going to have a motion. I'd like to have the vice chair read and sign the proclamation. So can we have that motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming May 5th through 11th, 2024 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week and authorize the vice chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
I'd second that.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 5th through the 11th, 2024 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week and authorize the vice chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I might not be able to, forgive me.
Got it.
Yep, I got it. So, the Board of County Commissioners for Clatsop County, Oregon, in the matter of proclaiming May 5th through 11th, 2024. I can't do it. Can you please do it? I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay. To the Children's Mental Health Awareness Week. Whereas addressing the complex mental health needs of children, youth, and families today is fundamental to the future of Clatsop County. And whereas mental health, also known as emotional or behavioral health, is a vital part of every child's medical health and development. It affects how individuals think, feel, and act. All children and teens have periods of anger, frustration, and sadness. However, for some kids, these feelings can reach a tipping point and interfere with everyday life. And whereas families need to know about the availability of free, accessible, and inclusive child and youth mental health services and how to access them to help create healthy, thriving, and connected communities that support personal growth and well-being. And whereas providing early intervention and treatment for child and youth mental health is essential, all children, youth, and their families in need of mental health supports must have access to services when and where they need them. And whereas for kids who struggle with their mental health, talking to someone and getting extra support or help can make a big difference. And whereas mental health challenges in children, adolescents, and young adults are real, but most importantly, they are treatable and often preventable. And whereas it is appropriate that a day should be set apart each year for the direction of our thoughts toward our children's mental health and well-being. And now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 5th through the 11th, 2024 as Children's Mental Health Awareness Week in Clatsop County, and invite all community members to join in this observance of Children's Mental Health Awareness Week by recognizing the value of our children's well-being. Dated this 8th day of May, 2024, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners.
You're here.
Here, here. Great job.
Thank you.
You know her?
Not at all. Oh, goodness. I think I'll keep that one.
Very special. Next is Provider Appreciation Day proclamation.
I might cry again.
I was gonna say, you got them stacked against you today, Courtney.
Welcome, Eva Manderson, Director of Northwest Regional Child Care Resource and Referral.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for having me here today. Like Commissioner Quila said, I am Eva Manderson. I'm the Director for Child Care Resource and Referral. We serve child care professionals across Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook counties. Before I jump to the proclamation, I just want to say a really big thank you to all of you for being a great example to our other counties, committing to supporting child care providers. The work that you've done with the expansion and retention grants in this county has just been a model for other counties across the state to follow. And one day soon, hopefully I'll come back and share with you a little bit about the grant that's going to be released this Friday and all the great things that it does. But for today, I'm here to talk about the proclamation for Provider Appreciation Day. It is nationally celebrated on May 10th. I think very appropriately situated with Teacher Appreciation Week and Mother's Day and Child Mental Health Awareness Week. So we will invite you to join us for celebrating providers. We're actually not celebrating on the 10th. We want our providers to enjoy that weekend and take the time with their families. So we are celebrating providers across our 3 counties on May 18th. It's a Saturday at Gray School, and we will be having training and food and door prizes, and would welcome any of you that wants to join us just to pop in and say hello and celebrate providers with us.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Eva.
Thank you.
And I just want to make a brief statement. Thank you so much for everything that you've done with all of the changeovers with our grant coordinator position. And I know that you don't have spare time, but you make time for us, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, Commissioner Thompson.
Eva Manderson, you are the stalwart. You have been here since the beginning of time, and I think
I'm not sure what that said.
that's a compliment. No, that's a compliment, because for as long as anybody can remember, you've been the pivot point. You've been the one who's held this cause for all of us, all through the counties, and you're so inspirational in what you do and how you do it, and your perseverance and the faith you inspire and the results you achieve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Well said. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to add? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve resolution and order proclaiming May 8th, 2024 as Provider Appreciation Day, and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 8th, 2024 as Provider Appreciation Day, and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming May 8th, 2024 to be Provider Appreciation Day, whereas Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day, and whereas child care provides a safe, nurturing place for the environment and development of millions of children nationwide, and is a vital force in our economy, and whereas the pandemic illuminated how indispensable child care providers are for the well-being and economic security of Oregon's young children, families, and communities, whereas child care programs, which are mostly small businesses, run and staffed predominantly by women, are still recovering from health and financial hardships stemming from the pandemic, while they have continued to meet the needs of families. And whereas Clatsop County and the state of Oregon recognizes that child care has been a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy, and as such has provided much needed support to providers to help sustain the viability of child care by creating the Clatsop County Child Care Expansion and Retention Grant Project, increasing investments in agencies that support the recruitment and retention of high-quality child care options for families, and improving access to programs that support young families. Whereas our future depends on the quality of the early childhood experiences provided to young children today, support for high-quality child care represents a worthy commitment to our children's future, and therefore be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 8th, 2024 as Provider Appreciation Day in Clatsop County, and invites all community members to join in this observance of Provider Appreciation Day by recognizing child care providers for their important work. Dated this 8th day of May, 2024, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eva.
It's contagious.
May 18th. 18th is when. Wonderful. Thanks for being here.
Eva.
Next is the Older Americans Month proclamation on page 10, and Larry Miller from the Astoria Senior Center. Welcome, Larry.
Good evening. My name is Larry Miller. I'm the president and the executive director of the Astoria Senior Center. I've been there for approximately 12 years and look forward to a good tour. Today, we gather to celebrate and honor the invaluable contributions of our older Americans who have enriched our communities and in particular Astoria. They have shaped our nation with their wisdom, resilience, and lifelong achievements. I work alongside our seniors in Astoria on a daily basis and totally respect what they have brought to our community. We owe a debt of gratitude to our older Americans for their dedication, their hard work, and their sacrifices, which have paved the way for future generations to thrive. As we celebrate Older Americans Month, let us remember that this community encompasses individuals from various backgrounds, cultures, and walks of life, each with their own unique stories and experiences. As we reflect on the achievements of our older Americans, let us also recommit ourselves to ensuring that they have the resources, the support, and the respect they deserve as they continue to play vital roles in our families, our communities, and our nation. I invite everyone to join us in celebrating Older Americans Month by recognizing the accomplishments of our elders and by taking action to continue to create a more age-friendly society where every individual is valued and respected.
Thank you very much, Larry. And as Larry mentioned, he's been, for a dozen years, you've been there at the Astoria Senior Center as a real leader. You know, I understand you're going to be stepping down from that position.
Well, I think so, if I can find a replacement.
Yeah.
I expect to step down sometime this summer. I was planning on leaving the end of May. However, we don't have many applicants to turn to, and so I have also been elected as president of the board. So I don't want to just walk out and leave it like it is. So I'll find a replacement, and I'll stick around as the president of the board.
Well, you've really been responsible for building that program up there at the Senior Center, and your leadership has been really valued in the community.
Well,
So
thank you very much.
Thanks for all you've done.
I'd like
Mr.
to.
Thompson?
Thank you.
I'm one of your lifetime members.
I know.
Because, well, the inspiration, again, that's provided and the wisdom of the recognition and the hard work, because that remodel has turned that senior center. You've transformed not only the physical reality, but all of the programming, the reach, and the benefit to senior members. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the compliment. And it's a very wonderful place to come.
Yeah.
Indeed. Could I make the motion?
Absolutely.
So, I'd like to move to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 2024 as Older Americans Month and authorize the chair to read and then sign the proclamation.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order proclaiming May 2024 as Older Americans Month and authorize the chair to read, then sign the proclamation. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. In the matter of proclaiming the month of May, the Older Americans Month, whereas our nation's older adults are an invaluable and cherished part of our community, contributing immeasurably to our society through their wisdom, experience, and resilience. And whereas Older Americans Month is a time to recognize and celebrate the countless contributions of our seniors, and to reaffirm our commitment to creating communities that honor and support their needs, aspirations, and well-being. And organizations like the Astoria Senior Center and the Northwest Senior and Disability Services recognize the need to create a community that provides the service and supports older adults. And whereas the Administration for Community Living acknowledges the importance of fostering environments that promote the health, dignity, and independence of older adults, ensuring they have access to vital services and supports that enable them to thrive and actively participate in all aspects of community life. And whereas the theme for Older Americans Month 2024, Powered by Connection, underscores the imperative of creating inclusive communities that are age-friendly, where individuals of all ages can live, work, and play together in harmony, recognizing the unique contributions and needs of older adults. And whereas, as we honor our seniors this month, we reaffirm our commitment to advocating for policies and initiatives that enhance the quality of life for older Americans, including affordable and accessible health care, housing, transportation, and social services. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners does hereby proclaim May 2024 as Older Americans Month in Clatsop County and invites the community to celebrate the remarkable achievements and enduring legacy of our seniors. Let us rededicate ourselves to creating a society where every older adult can age with dignity, respect, and the opportunity to flourish. Dated this 8th day of May, 2024, Clatsop County Board of Commissioners.
Thank you very much for the recognition to the seniors. I personally appreciate it, and I think it's a great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you for all you've done. We'll move on to business from the public. This is an opportunity for anyone to give a 2-minute presentation about any item on the agenda, except for public hearings, or any topic of county concern that is not on the agenda. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Okay. Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person this evening? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll go ahead and close business from the public and move on to the consent calendar.
I move to approve the consent calendar.
Second. Moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll start commissioner reports with Commissioner Toyoka.
Not much to report. I mean, I heard a lot because we've had a busy day, but just want to say that regional housing meeting should be again on the 22nd. Encourage participation. Just there's one statement I'd like to make is that, you know, housing is a dynamic entity. Right? There's not a single factor that affects it. Multiple things affect housing in our area. From the HCP, you know, and people said, how does that affect it? Well, we'll still need timber. We'll still need lumber to build homes. So now the same timber will be exporting from Canada, from other regions at a greater expense. The income dynamic will change here again, so that'll change the pricing level. So that negatively affects the cost of housing, makes it more expensive, harder for people to get into. So like we just looked at a multitude of factors. How can you navigate to try to create housing that is affordable in this area? So we're investigating more. Again, on the 22nd, there's another meeting, but there's many possibilities. We got a lot of great proposals coming out for, build to rent. There's a lot of different models that'll fit our community that'll help be very. So I'm encouraged, but I think, we just have to continue to look at every decision we make, it intertwines. They all affect all these decisions. So I'll defer the rest of it until the next meeting.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner Toka. Appreciate your leadership and participation in that. Very important. Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I've got a lot of workforce things to communicate about. Last week, I attended a wonderful conference where that was bringing workforce development people from all over the state. And I thought it was particularly interesting that it had a very different agenda than other workforce conferences that I've attended, which tend to focus on particular trades. And this one was all about trauma-informed care in the workforce development industry. As most of you probably know, that public sector workforce development is usually reaching out to people with disabilities, with underemployed, with people who often are on public assistance, and it includes our community colleges and our programs, which we have locally. Warrenton has a wonderful CTE program, which teaches some terrific skills, and I think Astoria is going to be increasing there. So it's I've just been elected the chair of the consortium we have 5 counties, but I was going to say the usual 5: Columbia, Clatsop, Tillamook, Lincoln, and this one has an addition one, which is Benton County, which seems a little crazy, but that's what it is. So it was an interesting couple of days because it was a new focus. It wasn't on welding or building trades. It was all about how we relate to the people we are training and how we handle them
when we give them, apprenticeships or other public assistance to become skilled. And I thought it was really interesting because, we also are expanding now that we have more federal money to include people who were recently incarcerated. And, it was just marvelous. It was very, very rich. And there were a number of exhibitors there, who, because the private sector is getting into a lot of workforce things now, which is particularly interesting because they have the more technology skills that we really need in our publicly funded program. So it was pretty terrific. And then we had a NOW meeting, Northwest Oregon Workforce Consortium meeting, a couple of days later, and said goodbye to some old friends and said hello to some new members. Tomorrow, I'm going to Washington, D.C. to participate in another workforce program that is focused, I think, once again, on new thinking in workforce development, that those of us who fund public programs have to be much more considerate of, once again, trauma-informed care in delivering our services. And we'll also have a several-hour briefing about what's going on at the federal level in terms of new programs and et cetera, and any changes. We don't really expect big changes in workforce development in the next few years. We're presently operating under legislation that's about 4 years old, and so that's what. I have been particularly interested too in talking with the folks at Clatsop Community College, helping them understand what resources are available to them to fund programs and to maintain some of the important programs they have. And there's a new announcement that I just got yesterday that there's going to be a nice package of federal money to enhance the maritime industry, to especially training. And I think one of my favorite quotes about why the maritime industry is so unique, especially in terms of developing people skills, is that Greg Morrill, who is one of my favorite citizens of Clatsop County, who runs Burgesson Construction, said he does a lot of welding. He's building right now some of the most exciting metal projects. Go take a look on Young's Bay. He's put in our new ramp, and it's beautiful. They're works of art. They really are. And Greg says, when I asked him about welding, I said, are our resources supplying you enough? He says, when I hire a welder, he's going to be a good welder, but I have to teach him how to weld on a moving thing. And I said, how long does that take? And he says, about a year. And so the maritime specifics, I think, are really important for us to rev up our resources for all kinds of maritime development. So I'll have a lot to report, I'm sure, when I come back.
Yeah.
I'll also be meeting with our congressional delegates.
Wonderful. Yeah, I appreciate your focus on workforce training and development. And I agree with what you said about Burgesson Construction and their value to the community.
There.
And certainly have a safe and productive trip to
Thank
Washington, D.C. Look
Thank
forward to talking to you when you get back.
Thank you.
Commissioner Banks.
So I was blessed to be able to attend the Astoria FFA banquet here this last week. In that process, Lindsay Davis was able to deliver their fundraising check. And so it's kind of been a wonderful week this past week. So our Natural Resources fundraising dinner earned over $150,000 to split among the Natural Resource Program here in our county. So Napa received, it's 5 programs in our community that received funding. They split the $150,000. And so Napa received an allotment to their natural resources program. Astoria FFA received an allotment. Astoria Fisheries received, later this month, Jewel School District will receive in their program, and Seaside High School has received. And Warrenton, I think, is also, it's not on my list for some reason, it might be already delivered, but Lindsay Davis, Vice Chair for Oregon Women in Timber, but also I think she's still president of the Clatsop Working Watersheds, is running around delivering those checks to those students. And it was a long night. That night was a really long and busy night there at the fairgrounds, but I'm so proud of our community, the natural resources industry, and how much money they donated to our community's kids for basic workforce development, in all things from ecology to forestry to fisheries and everything in between. And I have a particular love for the FFA just because I feel like it is career development all the way around, and also along with a side of public speaking and business development. So I was just proud to have been able to participate with that and pass my vice presidency to Lindsay. So, because time is a commodity that many of us don't have a lot of, and so, but she's doing a great job. And then beyond that, so it was the FFA banquet, and then on Monday I have a small table group session scheduled to discuss a governor's memo that will hopefully be released soon to the rest of the trustland counties. We brought, the 14 counties brought 17 ideas to the governor in our small table group discussions. And we adhered to the policy that we promised to all of our counties, was that we will not be making decisions, that we will be discussing the options that were brought forth by all of the counties. And so we discussed those 17 options, and the governor and her office and her representatives whittled that down to 3. And so we will be going over Melissa Cribben's memo prior to its release to make sure that the verbiage adheres to the promises that we made to our fellow counties prior to entering these small table group discussions. It's really important for me to be very abundantly clear that we as those individual commissioners in this room, we did not make any decisions. We verbalized all of the cares and concerns regarding every single one of the items, the 17 items brought before the governor's office. So we were just basically expressing and throwing out ideas. I mean, basically just trying to throw out whatever we could get to stick to the wall. So there is a memo that will be released. Bless government, sometimes things don't move quickly, so I have no projection for when that will be released, but it will be released to the Council of Florida Forest Trustland Counties as a group, and then there will be a decision or a vote made by the Council of Forest Trustland Counties. So that's just where things lay right now. It's not as quick as I would like because long session is sneaking up on us. So anyhow, that's it for now.
Well, we'll be eagerly anticipating the release of the memo and really appreciate your perseverance and advocacy for Clatsop County when it comes to this matter, bringing it to the governor's office and continuing to push. And so, yeah, thank you for all your work. I know it was a busy weekend out at the fairgrounds. Kyle Sharpstein and Kristen Klein, we had our event there on Saturday, FFA there on Friday. So, yeah, great job by the fairgrounds crew to get everybody happy and in and out of there. And, yeah, it went very smoothly on Saturday for our event, too. So, thanks again. Commissioner Thompson.
Okay, I'm going to talk about the hard stuff first. This has been a tough year in terms of losing community stalwarts, community leaders. Dr. Bob Wayne, Dave Rouse, and now Marnie Beamer. If you're from Arch Cape, Marnie Beamer, who was weeks short of turning 104 years old, was the Empress of Arch Cape. We all wanted to be Marnie Beamer when we grew up. Her memorial service is this Friday at the Cannon Beach community church at 11 o'clock. I imagine there will be overflow crowds for blocks. That's the hard part. They've been precious. They've done right by us. But I went, pardon me, a couple of weeks ago to a Land Conservation and Development Commission meeting in Lebanon, and we could see the redevelopment there. And talking about development, Commissioner Toyoka, you've been so eloquent about your concerns. Can I quote you? Sure, you're not running for re-election. I'm going to quote you. No, you said they make it so expensive and time-consuming that even if you win, you lose. And I think that sentiment, pardon me if I've embarrassed you, but I think that sentiment I've taken to heart, and I carry that with me. So when I go forward, I look at the impact on businesses, because we have to balance the conservation of the land, but we also have to look at the impact on the people. And if we don't have businesses that pay taxes, then people don't have jobs. And having a house is essential, but if there's no job to go with that house, it's impossible to build a community. So I carry what all of you, my colleagues, have said to me about your various concerns and passions and devotions when I go there. And we're having a conversation about the decision-making process. I'm told that the department is ready for a paradigm shift. I think my idea of a paradigm shift and everybody else's idea of a paradigm shift, that will take some negotiation, but we're engaged in that. So I appreciate that. Monday, $700 million was recommended to the Deputy Director of Business Oregon for distribution to do seismic rehab retrofitting all over Oregon. And I'm not allowed to disclose who got what, but one of us is going to be really happy pretty soon. It's for schools and public safety. Public safety buildings. I said nothing. So that was Monday, and it's such a well-run process. Gloria Zacharias does it in Business Oregon. She has a team of engineers who evaluate every application and rate them and look at the cost-benefit analysis and look at the risk of collapse and the type of the building and the role in the community. And there are community members who inform the decision-making process. It's really a model type. When I participated in the AOC Oregon Judicial Department courthouse project allocation process, I keep trying to get them to make it like that. It isn't. I'll tell you, there are various kinds of things, so it isn't like that. When we're talking about advocacy, to go to another topic, on June 18th, right, that Tuesday, the Joint Committee on Transportation is coming to Tillamook. They're looking at what we need and what we have in our counties, and it's not just county roads, it's state highways. We've had the planning request for Highway 30. We've had the planning project for Highway 6. Now we need to look at 101, because I'll tell you what, those floods are again closing that road, stopping all travel and commerce. Nobody gets through when the road's flooded. We've seen it before. We're seeing it again. Mother Nature continues. And tomorrow I have another good committee meeting, because I'm chairing the Rules Advisory Committee for Goal 5 cultural artifacts. Goal 5 is kind of the gnarly miscellaneous issues that are problematic. And Commissioner Webb, you may remember Robert Liberty. I was in a hearing with Robert Liberty, and I hugged him. And I praised him, and then I said, Robert, I'm probably going to annoy you now. And he said, some things never change about our relationship, which is true. Because we have people from metropolitan areas who, some of them just stay in metropolitan areas. Some of them move out here and then try and recreate I would say Clatsop County in the image of what they left behind and feel entitled and empowered to do that. And if we would just get with their program, everything would be fine. Well, LCDC is where all of that comes together. So we're looking at how to listen respectfully, to find common values, to heal the earth, and to heal the suffering of the people. So we're looking at doing all of that. And I carry our conversations with me. So thank you, Mr. Chair. That's my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. We do appreciate your advocacy and representation, and also the transportation issue. We know, I mean, no one can deny the need of road improvements, transportation improvements in this corner of the state. And thank you for carrying those forward, going to Tillamook and making sure that you're, you know, speaking for us.
Actually, it's going to be Commissioner Toyoka who's speaking for us, I hope, because I'm supposed to be, well, they dumped this additional date into the schedule when AOC had already scheduled our AOC days. I'm committed to looking, I've told you this before, I'm committed to looking at the revenue expenditure situation in Oregon. And I'm committed to having AOC function in such a way that AOC and LOC guide, this is my ambition, guide the legislature and the executive branch in how to be effective partners with local government, with cities and counties, so that we get the adequate support, we get the appropriate local control, and we're able to go forward as their agents, not as some irrelevant stakeholder.
Yeah.
So that's, so we're going to...
You're going to be sharing the duty, so that's great.
We're going to divide and prevail, we hope.
Divide and conquer. Wonderful. Thank you both for your work. And just real quickly, we had a budget committee right before this meeting. We have really good engagement for the members of the committee. I'm always impressed at the level of, you know, conservative budgeting that we do as a county, and that's really credit to our assistant county manager, to our finance director, Andrew Sullivan. I always have complete confidence that we're getting a very polished document every time that we sit down and discuss it. And I just do appreciate the level of detail. I mean, there's not a question that goes by that Monica can't answer right off the top of her head. And so thank you for doing that. And again, we got through the law enforcement or sheriff's department budget and DA's budget today. More to do, but I thought that was a very productive budget committee meeting today. Assistant County Manager.
Thank you all for your leadership throughout that meeting. And so to that note, just a reminder for those who are listening, we will be advertising this, but the budget meeting that was originally scheduled for May 15th has been canceled. We will resume on the May 22nd date, and we will adjust any other meetings accordingly. Just a staff keeping note, if you could please contact me until Wednesday. The county manager is out of the office. And so if you have anything that you need, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Teresa's also out of the office right now. And so if you are planning to attend the Cedar Awards that are Thursday, May 16th, and you haven't RSVP'd, please let me know, and I can go ahead and do that for you all. And that is all that I have.
Thank you very much, Assistant County Manager. Any other items? We're ready to move on to the business agenda. We have the first item, 2023-2024 Special Projects Fund 100 Internal Service Loan Extension, page 151. And
that's me.
Assistant County Manager.
So back in the 2018-19 fiscal year, the board approved, in accordance with ORS 294.468, a loan from the Special Projects Fund to the Household Hazardous Waste Fund, and that was for the construction of the Household Hazardous Waste Facility located on Williamsport Road. The total construction of that was $1.3 million, and the loan was to be paid up through or at the time, the loan had been paid up through the 1920 fiscal year in the amount of $602,090. There's currently an outstanding balance of $700,182. Per ORS 294.468, it's lawful to loan funds up to 10 years. At this point in time, the original RNO was to have it paid back within 5 years, and that hasn't been feasible. And so we're asking for your board to extend the loan for an additional 5 years so that the remaining balance of approximately $700,000 could potentially still repay the special projects fund.
Thank you. Assistant County Manager, do we have any questions?
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chair. I remember when we did that. Has business been slower? How come we're not able to pay it back the way we thought we would be able to?
Part of it was, so the contract that was with the agency, the contractor who does the actual collection of the materials, that came in significantly higher than what was anticipated. The state, who we piggyback our contract off of, has renegotiated with another agency, and so now we are piggybacking off of that. Also, you know, there had been a number of years while we were building the facility that we weren't doing any collections, and so there was a lot of I don't want to say backlog, but there was a lot of materials that people were hanging on to. And so we had a significantly higher number of events than we originally anticipated having. So moving forward, we do anticipate doing these events on a quarterly basis. Previously, I think we were doing them close to 8 times a year. And so those costs made it significantly more than what we were planning. So the payment of the cost to the contractor to provide those services prohibited them from having the funds to repay the loan.
Any other questions? Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I mean, do we have any numbers about how that has gone?
We can get you those numbers off the top of my head in regards to collection.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do have those numbers actually in the budget document, I believe. And so, but we can make sure that we get them from the Household Hazardous Waste team.
Okay, okay, fine. Because I would have expected that COVID would have impacted, because we didn't open until.
Yeah, we weren't, that's another thing, that we weren't having events. We were utilizing that facility for the drive-through testing and such. And so, you know, that's one of the other things too that we are looking at. How else can we utilize that facility? Because it is a very nice facility that is rarely used.
It really is. So, good. I also wonder if we are advertising it enough. We were having very high utilization when we were having events, and when we cut back the number of events that we were having, we got a lot of calls about that, and so that's why we are making sure that we are having another event on June 15th of this fiscal year, and so that will be our next event, and we will make sure that we really advertise that again. Yeah, good. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to approve the resolution and order required by ORS 294.468 to extend the duration of the interfund loan made between the Special Projects Fund and the Public Health Fund for another 5 years to June 26, 2029.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the resolution and order required by ORS 294.468 to extend the duration of an interfund loan made between the Special Projects Fund and the Public Health Fund for another 5 years to June 26, 2029. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is approval of collective bargaining agreement. Rebecca Cameron from Human Resources Director is here. Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Quayla, members of the board. The item I am presenting for board approval this evening is the 2024-27 collective bargaining agreement between Clatsop County and the Federation of Oregon Parole and Probation Officers, which we call FOPO. I would like to thank the bargaining team from FOPO and our Sheriff's Office representatives for their time and dedication to the collective bargaining agreement. In addition, I want to thank Sheriff Phillips and Under Sheriff Williams for their leadership through the successful negotiation process. A few things to note from the agreement. In order to align with the county's other law enforcement collective bargaining agreement, we formalized the increase to DPSST certification. The uniform clothing reimbursement was increased, by $100 per fiscal year. And we added a $200 per month in the month for employees who perform Morrissey hearings. That is just kind of the highlights from the, collective bargaining agreement, and I am here if you have any questions.
Great, yeah, thank you, Rebecca. Huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Any, Commissioner Webb?
I'm one of those crazy people who reads these things. And as always, in our previous meeting, we were talking about the sheriff's budget. One of the things that I find is consistent from our sheriff is his desire to require and fund training for everybody who works for him. And I was really happy to see the terms in the contract that increased that. And, you know, it's such a stretch when we're trying to be really tight-fisted, but I think it's an indication of that there are certain things that we don't want our employees to be deprived of. And training is certainly one of them. Just a little good job.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other comments, questions? Are we ready for the motion?
I move the board approve the 2024 to 2027 collective bargaining agreement between the Federation of Oregon Parole and Probation Officers and authorize the chair to sign the agreement.
Moved and seconded that the board approve the 2024-2027 collective bargaining agreement between Federation of Oregon Parole and Probation Officers and authorize the chairperson to sign the agreements. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Great job. We'll move on to item 10A, which was added to our agenda. This is the Aldridge Point lease agreement. I don't see Steve Meshke, so Assistant County Manager Monica Steele.
So, since the mid-70s, Clatsop County has been involved with a boat ramp out on Aldrich Point, which happens to be on private property. We have been most recently in a 10-year lease with them, and the boat ramp funding has been in question. It's really difficult for the county to make improvements to it because we do not have the resources to do so, and since it is private property, it's not something that we should be paying for. We have made an agreement currently with the interested parties where the county will enter into a new one-year lease agreement. The local community interest will be responsible for the maintenance of the site, and Clatsop County will provide liability insurance for that site. We will be making sure any maintenance that is done meets the necessary requirements for our insurance purposes. And county staff will coordinate with community stakeholders for these regular inspections to make sure that nothing changes. We anticipate the fiscal impact to be approximately $100 cost on an annual basis to our overall countywide liability insurance. And so we are asking your board to please approve this one-year lease agreement with the property owner.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. I know this was of big importance to a number of people that utilize that boat ramp, and this was a perfect example of a balance between community interest and the county's interest to strike this agreement. So
wonderful.
Appreciate all the hard work. I know there were several meetings in order to make this happen. Glad that it did. Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Thompson, then Commissioner Banks. Commissioner,
She was first.
Commissioner Banks.
I just want to make note of appreciation to county staff for patience in this back and forth conversation that we have had over the last couple of weeks. I desperately wanted to support the entities interested in this boat ramp maintaining, but at the same hand was at the realization that we cannot fund it as a county. And so it was a really very difficult position to be in, and I'm glad for the creative thinking of our county staff in order to come to this conclusion where it is a very minute fiscal responsibility for the county, and we can still, you know, provide this umbrella of protection to the landowner by also, you know, creating community relationships and keep moving forward. I'm grateful for your creativity. So I'm not sure who was the most creative in that, but
Yay.
Well, I will say it's not me. I give credit to county council, county manager, and the, park staff, so.
Yep,
Excellent.
I agree.
Gotta love a win-win, right? Is this anticipated to continue kind of in perpetuity?
So what we wanted to do is kind of buy some time so that we could have, in-depth conversations with the landowner to try to figure out a solution that's gonna be long-term. So this is something we're gonna continue working on, even though this lease is being signed tonight or approved tonight.
That's kind of lawyer speak. Is that yes or no?
Any other comments, questions? Yeah, thank you, County Council. I know that County Council worked diligently on this. Okay,
I move to approve the Aldrich Point lease agreement.
second that. Moved and seconded to authorize the chair to sign the Aldrich Point lease agreement that has a sunset date of June 31st, 2025.
Can't be June 31st.
June 30th. There's no June 31st.
Well, it says June 31st.
Uh-oh.
We will make that amendment, and so if you could,
Let's do it over.
yeah.
Okay.
That's my point about perpetuity.
Let's do it over.
I can re-motion the motion. Okay, I move to approve the Aldrich Point lease agreement with a sunset date of June 30th, 2025.
Yeah.
Second, authorize the chair to sign the Aldrich Point lease agreement that has a sunset date of June 30th, 2025. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, motion carries.
I mean, that's a new kind of.
Nice catch. I wouldn't have caught it, by the way, and I didn't. Okay, public hearing. Granting solid waste franchise, Recology, Western Oregon on page 230. All right, this is the time set for a public hearing on granting solid waste franchise agreement. Is there any additional information from staff?
Thank you,
County
Chair
Council.
Cuela. I have a few things. First off, I want to extend a welcome to Chris, Katie, and Dan for coming out here tonight. They are available for any questions if the board has any. I'm going to be relatively brief, as we had a presentation 2 weeks ago in the work session, so I think we went over most of this material. Just for the record, I want to remind the board that on February 23rd, 2022, the County Board of Commissioners voted on ordinance number 2021-06, which established the requirement for solid waste collectors to obtain a franchise from the county. The county has received an application from Recology. As part of the ordinance, this application is reviewed by the county manager's office to make sure that their company conforms to the requirements of section 8.24.170 of the solid waste ordinance. And after reviewing their application, we are basically, sorry, I got caught up here. But we are recommending that their application be approved. And we're going to turn some time over to Assistant County Manager Monica to discuss a little more about the rates.
So we did receive an updated rate sheet that reflects the inflationary costs as of 7/1/24. And so, as we mentioned in that work session, there's essentially two different types of areas that they're serving, the suburban area and the rural area. And so speaking to the rural area first, if you are receiving a garbage service, and now this recycling service will be added onto it, your costs on a monthly basis will increase by $9.87. Respectively, for the suburban area, it will increase by $8.45. We know, because you all have received some public comment that has been put into the record already, that there are concerns in regards to that, that increase that will occur on a monthly basis. But there are, as mentioned during the work sessions, cost savings that could kind of either reduce that impact or essentially make it cost neutral. And so in the instance of if somebody is currently receiving weekly garbage service, it is highly likely that because they are now putting a lot of garbage that previously was going into the garbage can, now will be going into the recycling can, they could reduce their monthly or their garbage service to an every other week or a monthly basis. And so that would help make it either be a lesser impact of that $9.87 or $8.45, or make it cost neutral altogether. And so happy to answer any additional questions that you all might have.
So it's just a point of clarification because there's just a lot of information running around. So it's increasing $9 per billing cycle or $9 for every?
$9 a month, so they get billed on a monthly basis, and so for the rural area, your monthly rate would increase from what is currently, if you were getting weekly garbage service in the rural area, it would currently be $29.03 a month. What it would be increasing to with the recycling service on a weekly garbage service is $38.90. So it's increasing $9.87 a month. In regards to the, sorry, I just drew a blank. The pickup rate of the recycling is every other week. So you could still get weekly garbage service, but your recycling will always be every other week. You could get every other week garbage service, and your recycling will still be every other week.
And my next question being the depot sites, the drop-off depot sites, would those remain functioning and still have the same pattern of empty pickup and emptying?
I will defer to Recology on that. Yes.
Okay. So I will be like fully transparent with the rest of the commission. There've been some like misinformation situations occurring right now, where the assumption was that it would be $9 per pickup, or $9 every other week, and so there's a lot of community comment occurring right now, and with the uptick in electric bills in my rural area and the uptick of basically all living expenses, the majority of my constituents are kind of a monthly, like they live paycheck to paycheck, and so any increase is difficult to wrap their minds around, and so I will stop with my questioning, but I would like to submit a different motion this evening if possible, so.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and, at this point in time, open up the public hearing. Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person? We'll go ahead then and close the public hearing at this time. I would open it up to representatives from Recology, Western Oregon, if you would like to add anything or have any.
So Chris Carey, General Manager for our organization. It's really just to say that, so Chris Carey, General Manager, Recology for Oregon. My comments would be that we're just here tonight for any questions that anybody has. We're very supportive of the program. Thank you for your help in getting this. I know it took a while for us to get a program to you. So that's our purpose for tonight. We don't have a presentation or anything like that for you.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. County Manager.
If I may, so we'll be on, if your motion is going to be something different this evening, we can work on continuing to get the word out there in regards to the rate increases, because kind of like what I was talking to, if you're currently receiving weekly garbage service, it's $29.03. If you switch to every other week, it would be $28.76. So it would be a decrease for the rural area in that particular instance. We will work with the communications team to get that information out there, and we will continue to share any additional public comments that come your way.
So Commissioner Banks, is it you're concerned about the communication portion of it, or can we move forward with the?
I'm concerned about the public comment period with the amount of misinformation that's running around. I feel like that there needs to be a little bit more clarity for the community, especially particularly mine. And so my motion will allude to an extension of the public comment period.
I would support that wholeheartedly. I went, after our recent escalation increase of fees for restaurants, et cetera, I went over this really, really carefully, and I did the percentages, et cetera. And it's lengthy, it's complicated, but it looked very natural to me that if you reduced your garbage consumption, you would be home free. And bringing recycling to the rural area is so important because I mean, just in our budget meeting, we had a discussion about trash in rural areas, and it is, and often recycling is the problem. Of something that otherwise could be recycled. So I love that idea. I would think it'd be terrific to just say, okay, let's extend the comment period and let's work really hard with our public information people.
Yeah.
To see if they can come up with some really cool ways to explain, because it's, I mean, the thing itself is pretty complicated to look at, but I'll bet our public information people could make that much more understandable.
My thank you, sir. My question is, will this delay the implementation of the program? Because the longer we wait, the more, I want to say, the more mischief is created. It makes sense to me that we need to reassure people, because I think people are really terrified right now. The increases, the living paycheck, the squeeze that people are feeling is undeniable. On the other hand, waiting seems like a bad idea, because it needs to happen. Sooner begun, the better off for everybody. Is it possible to combine an accelerated public information program through social media and all of the myriad of ways that we have, and begin the program? Because I am persuaded we're retraining people in how to categorize by sorting garbage from recycling, which when somebody first proposed it to me, I had a little hissy fit and said, I have young kids, I'm too busy, this is a pain in the neck, I'm not going to do it. And my husband said, oh, look, this is easy. Here's a bag, here's a bag, here's a bag. We can do it. Oh, okay. But I needed some reassurance to help get me over the edge. And if we could give people the reassurance and implement the program sooner, because I don't want to terrorize people who are already terrified, but I would like to help them do the right thing as soon as possible.
If I may, sorry, I do also want to say that this would not be implemented until after July 1st. So that's when the franchise would take effect. In the instance of the next franchise agreement, that one is a smaller region, but in conversations with Recology, it will be a slow rollout as well, because they will have to order equipment, which includes trucks, which are on a delay. There are some parts of the county, more than likely the more suburban areas, that are already close to the routes that are being served within the cities, that would be able to start implementation sooner after the July 1st date. But there is still a period with which before this actually will be implemented. And then I also just wanted to, the county council pointed out, one thing I just wanted to kind of also point out, when we're saying that the rate is going from $29.03 to $38.90, part of that rate would already be occurring, because that 3.9% inflationary cost, whether recycling happened or not, would be implemented. And so it would go from $29.03 to $30.16. So all of that increase isn't necessarily because of the recycling, it's because of the garbage service that has the inflationary cost.
May I? Yeah. So look, people don't want to have to pay more money because they don't feel that their wages are keeping up with inflationary expenses. Absolutely understood. Can we manage, working with the company, the public relations effort that needs to happen to reassure people? Because it for some people, it's going to be a really bitter pill to swallow.
There is most definitely an educational component to it. One, educating individuals on what the rates will look like, but also, you know, there's an important component that is in the franchise agreement about education about recycling and what can and cannot be recycled. So this isn't going to just be something that once the board does or does not approve is over with. It's going to be an education campaign to help people understand what they can and can't throw away or recycle.
Commissioner Banks.
Just with that news of the inflationary portion, that rates would be going up no matter what, I do still adhere to the thought process of extending the public comment period so that we have the opportunity for communication. I think that if we moved forward and ignored the characters of the public still show up, we're gonna hear about it. And it's so hard, especially for our community members that are on fixed incomes, to serve yet another increase. And so I want to fully delve into the conversation with people and give them the opportunity to ask questions. Because I think that we've kind of, I think we just need to take the time to do that. I don't want to be like the other agencies who have done these things and charged us more money. Sorry.
And I appreciate that, and in reality, this doesn't affect my district, it affects your district, so I understand that, give deference to what you're.
Absolutely.
So, what do you have as a proposed motion?
So I move that the public comment period be extended to May 22nd, 2024 for the Recology Western Oregon, Inc. solid waste franchise application.
Is that legal? I mean,
Yeah, we can definitely postpone, the public hearing and.
Are we just tabling this then?
So should I add the word table the public hearing and?
I guess, yeah, move the
Okay,
public hearing.
I will reverse. I move to table the public hearing and extend the public comment period to be extended to May 22nd, 2024 for the Recology Western Oregon, Inc. solid waste franchise application.
What did you say, one second?
Good.
Okay. Who seconded it? Oh, sorry,
oh,
Commissioner.
sure, I'll do that.
Okay, moved and seconded to table the public hearing on the solid waste franchise application to May 22nd, and continue the public comment period until that time. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
So can I clarify with,
Yeah, let's clarify.
Yes.
come on up. Tell us what we just did to your program.
I knew I left too soon.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well, sir, thank you, Mr. Chair. Will this in fact delay implementation, or does it, no, it won't, okay,
So,
good.
it's okay, it's a big change, we support taking more time. When you are ready for us to implement the recycling program, we'll do it. And when you say yes, then there's a time that starts for us to order carts, which is probably sooner in terms of them arriving. It's the truck, we have to add a truck, and a driver to this. Trucks are backlogged. We're gonna do what we can to, prepare a used truck in the interim until a new one arrives, to try to get that service sooner, but that's been difficult. So we're ready when you're ready for the recycling, implementation. The other thing that, just to be clear, is that folks will not be charged for that recycling program until they get a cart from us and we can provide service. So if you approve July or whatever, and we start moving on it, they still won't see an increase until the service is provided. So we had to, we put a fairly, we gave ourselves some room to get this truck. So we said 6 to 18 months, something like that. So it could spread out. But I don't anticipate it taking that long. It could be 6 months to a year for the truck to get in place. And that's what's gonna keep us from fully rolling this out. And there's delivery, it's 4,500 customers, something like that.
Thank you.
But we will endeavor to go faster. I just want everybody to be aware that it is a truck issue. And the timelines for garbage trucks are still 18 months.
Quick, Whether may, it's just a
Hey, Councilman.
question, and this is something I talked to Waste Management about, but throughout Oregon, there's all their routes, they always combine recycling with the garbage fee. Like, there's no places where it's a separate service that you pay extra
Right.
for, it's always included. Is that the same with Recology?
That's what we've proposed, because in order for us to get you the most affordable price for recycling, we've got to spread it across as many homes as possible. So we make it inclusive in the service for that reason. We've done subscription in the past where if I want it, I'll pay for it. We usually do a pilot and not enough people sign up, and then the project usually it fails. or it gets really expensive for just those people that want it. So it works much better this way to spread it across all ratepayers. We find that, the majority of people adapt to it very quickly. It's a single stream, commingled cart. It used to be where you had to separate everything into bags. We found that when you make it easier, more people do it. And so you'll see that the rate is an incentive to do more of it as well. So if I can take my products that I put in my can and I get another can and I can put it in there, then I can reduce the amount that I pay for trash. Yeah, ideally.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Good
I'm going to
question.
stay here in case you have more questions.
Any other comments, questions? Commissioner Banks?
I would just like for our county staff to really focus on ways to offset the cost, and really develop that talking point for folks. I sense from the board, the direction that the board wishes to go, and so I want to help defer the impact as much as possible, and I think that we can do that via communication.
I could add one more thing to that. We do have a Waste Zero specialist on our team that works for Katie here locally, and currently does outreach for recycling, goes to schools, and that's who usually has the best impact on families, is the kids teach their parents how to recycle. So that's been helpful. We do a lot of outreach at events. We did artist in residence that help, promote recycling. We just had an event with them at the Crab Fest. So we're always doing events. Plus, we'll go to schools. And if you have a group that you would like us to speak to, that's what we would do. And we would talk about this new program and how to leverage it so that it doesn't have as much impact.
Mr. Thompson?
Go to the churches.
Yep.
So here's what I don't want to see. I don't want to see an increase in illegal dumping, because people are either feel they can't afford it or are angry about it. And that's, I don't know if there's, we can try and educate people. We can have methods, but we want to help people want to do it and be able to do it affordably. Is there any way to offset any, is there any program where we could offset some for needy people?
There are some programs. Dan, on our team, Dan Blue, is familiar with a lot of those assistance programs. I don't know that the county has one.
Yeah.
Some of the cities may, but we can talk to groups. We can talk to Monica about how that would work. It's usually from the state or from the city or from the county.
It's usually
that would,
like CCA has
exactly.
has things for that.
So there are programs available.
Yeah.
Yep. We can work with Monica and team to show her some of those programs that we have in other communities.
That's part of the education program as well, so that people know that there's a fallback, a support system for them.
Right. I don't think that there's one in place now, but with the time frame that I've given you, we can certainly try to get some traction.
18 months.
Okay, any other questions, comments? I appreciate you being here, to be able to answer questions, and thank you again for being here. I think we just want to make sure we communicate over the next couple of weeks, letting people know what the rate actually means. You're not getting doubled up like apparently there's some confusion.
There's just a lot of misinformation. When you put information out and it isn't clear.
Customer friendly.
Well, customer friendly. Thank you. That's a really good turn of phrase. If it isn't customer friendly, it creates alternative talking points, and I'm trying to mitigate alternative talking points right now, so.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Toyoka, I think, yes, the next item is the Grants Waste Management of Oregon's application. I'm assuming we're going to do the same.
Cut and paste.
Table.
We will have to open the public hearing and kind of go through the steps.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
We will have to kind of go through the steps so that we could have that motion and reset that.
We'll start with the granting solid waste franchise, Waste Management of Oregon on page 249, and I'll turn it over to County Council.
So I'm just going to kind of copy and paste everything I said in the prior hearing just to save time. I think we all know what's happening here. So I don't know, Andrew, is Dave Huber on? He's the
Yes, he
representative
is.
from Waste Management. Do you mind putting him on, and we'll just make sure he doesn't have anything he'd like to add?
He's now a panelist.
He's online?
Oh, here he is.
There he is.
Hi, Dave, welcome.
Yes, good evening and thank you. Yes, Dave Huber, Public Sector Manager here for WM. So thanks for having me on this evening.
Dave, have you been able to follow any of the previous public hearing conversation?
Yes, I certainly have. And yeah, you know, I don't want to I mean, the only thing that you know, I'd really like to add is some really good talking points. How, you know, yeah, it is a significant increase. However, you know, with adding recycling services, you know, in our section of the county is a very small section. We're only talking about 275 customers. But it will give the customers that ability to have the recycling services, you know, in right there at their houses, and the increase is significant. But one thing I just wanted to point out was part of that increase is a newly adopted franchise fee, and I believe it's 5%. That is going to be something new for the county as well. So yeah, I know it's a big impact to the community members. We always want to be cautious of that, but it will. There are some new franchise fees for the county that are part of that cost structure too.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. Does anybody have a question at this time? Commissioner Thompson?
Do we have plans for how to use that franchise fee, the revenues from it?
We have had conversations in regards to of the ability to use some of those funds for parks, for the household hazardous waste facility, and some of those other options. So those are conversations that we are having. It is not revenue that is budgeted in the current proposed budget because, as mentioned, you know, the rollout process of this is still to be determined.
Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
I hate throwing you a curveball in a public meeting, but I'm going to do it. Get ready. If we're going to have franchise fee revenues, could we take a look at maybe offsetting for low-income customers some of the costs associated?
That could be part of the conversation, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, they're not.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person? Don't see any. We'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Do we have a motion?
I just want to add kind of what I did with Recology. I just want to add a little bit about the rate increases because Waste Management's process is a little bit different. And so currently, for example, their increases are a little bit more staggered. And so it goes from, if you have more regular pickups, such as on a weekly basis, your increase will be $11.52 per month. And then as you go down to every other week or once per month, the amount increases a little bit less. So for example, if you're going once per month, your increase is $6.44. So again, to the point of being able to offset what those potential costs would be, currently you would be paying $29.78 for a once a week pickup, and that would go up to $41.30. You could offset that increase if you went to every other week pickup by, instead of paying $29.78 and going to $41.30, you would instead be paying $31.50. So it's still a slight increase, but it's, you know, less than $1. If you went to once per month, you would be decreasing down to $23.15. Just on a different note, Waste Management's rates are from January to December, where Recology's were July to June. So just a couple of differences. And Waste Management does also offer just a roll cart recycling service. And so if you currently do not get garbage, you can choose to get just recycling for $20.06 per month.
Thank you, Assistant County Manager. Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. in my part of the world, we need to have those, tops that are locked on so that the critters don't get in to the garbage cans. Are the cans, is there an additional charge for those? I just call them locking garbage cans. There may be a different title that's more appropriate, but we need to have them so that the trash doesn't end up all over the street.
And the bears. Is that a question for Dave?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that. You know, we currently don't provide that locking, and you're right on the vernacular, the locking cart mechanisms. We don't currently offer that. I think a lot of customers that we service will perhaps maybe use the kind of the old style, just bungee cord to secure the lids if there is that issue. But on the recycling carts, we are just our plan is to implement them with just 64-gallon carts. They wouldn't be locking carts. We typically, of course, that issue that you described is mainly on the garbage end of things, not so much on the recycling end of things.
Commissioner Thompson?
Okay, there are interlocking systems here because if there is transient occupancy, and if that cart doesn't lock, and if garbage from that cart ends up on the ground, there are neighbors who patrol the neighborhood and report any single piece of paper or crackers or whatever on the ground, so I can see trouble with this. Because bungee cord, I mean, I don't know if it's because people don't know how to use bungee cords. They probably don't know how to use WD-40 or duct tape either, right? If they don't know how to use bungee cords. Sorry, we have to have some humor in this. But we've got to have it so that the garbage doesn't end up on the ground. Just want to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Do we have any other comments, questions? Are we ready for a motion?
I move to table the franchise public hearing and extend the public comment period to May 22nd, 2024 for the Waste Management of Oregon, Inc.'s application for a solid waste franchise.
Moved and seconded to table and extend the public comment period for the Grant Waste Management of Oregon's application for a solid waste franchise till May 22nd. All those in favor signify with an aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Dave.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner.
We'll move on to ordinance 24-12, Land and Water Development and Use Code, LODOC Amendment, Section 5.3000, page 261, and Gail Henriksen, our Community Development Director, is here. Gail.
Yes, thank you. I have no updates from last time. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the continuation of public hearing, and may we have the second reading by title only, County Council.
This is ordinance number 24-12 in the matter of an ordinance amending the Clatsop County Land and Water Development and Use Code, clarifying requirements for the geologic hazard report and expanding the list of professionals qualified to prepare the report.
Thank you, County Council. Clerk of the Board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak remotely?
No, there are not.
Are there any members of the public signed up to speak in person? Seeing any, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing at this time. Do we have any discussion? Ready for a motion?
Comment, appreciate Gail, the Planning Commission, we, be on that housing task force, we're always talking about removing barriers, facilitating.
Yeah.
This is a great step, so thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Agreed. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve ordinance 24-12.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve ordinance 24-12. All those in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Now, do we have anything for the good of the order? We do have an executive session.
Oh,
we do.
Oh, pickle sticks.
We do have an executive session, and I'm going to tell you exactly.
So Seth, you can't be in here for executive session, okay?
But you can drag a chair out to the hallway and just hang.
There's a fancy, comfy chair out there, Judge Guy Boynton's chair is sitting out there.
Where is that?
A fancy, comfy chair out there.
It's been refurbished, yeah.
It's not too far away, is it?
It's like right there by that desk.
Go take a seat.
Sitting on executive session.
No, I'm sorry, guys, I'm trying to pull out the right wording here.
Can't we get advance notice for executive session?
Oh, that's last, you know.
I'm sorry, guys, but I object to that.
So, County Board of Commissioners will now meet in executive session. The executive session is held pursuant to ORS 192.660, subset 2, subset A, to consider the employment of a public officer, employee, or individual agent.
I think that's the wrong, ORS.
Oh, I got a bunch of them here.
Okay, just pick the one that has to do with litigation, sorry.
Litigation?
Yep.